And good morning. It is a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. He's Griffin. Turned out to be a pleasant weekend in Kansas City for the Birds, but it didn't start that way, and it was looking hairy. They end up taking 2 out of 3. Now they head out to the West Coast. Why in God's name are the Orioles taking a West Coast trip for 3 games?
It's a good time of year to go.
I don't care about that. Why in the ever-loving F is an East Coast team taking a West Coast trip to play 3 games? Like, I realize somebody's going to explain to me, this is the way it works now with the unbalanced schedule. It requires more of this, but yuck. 3 games. Got to go across the country. I'm pretty sure the Red Sox, when they opened the season on the West Coast, played 9 or 10 games.
I think they played 10, yeah.
Figure it out. And this seems wrong. Alas. The Orioles get underway against the Angels tonight. And they got, it's funny because we were talking about the possibility of the Orioles moving the rotation around to get Grayson an extra start. Well, one, as it turns out, Cole Irvin was awesome. 2, you know who they're really manipulating the rotation for?
Oh, that's our big.
The ace.
Big Al.
Albert Suarez, who's going tonight. And Grayson actually got pushed back to tomorrow, which, again, as I said, the only thing that was an issue with the theory about Grayson was they're still not fully there with him innings-wise. And so I don't blame the Orioles for going the other way with this and saying, hey, let's prioritize the opportunity to slow it down on innings front. Showing an awful lot of faith in Albert Suarez in the process. Like a crazy amount of faith. This would actually put Albert Suarez in line to pitch again on Sunday. That's against the Athletics, so, yeah. In fairness.
I mean, he's going against the 3 best teams in the American League, the Twins, the Angels, and the
Athletics,
A's,
yeah.
So.
In fairness, they could probably let Zimmerman start against the Athletics on Sundays. Yeah, maybe. All right, coming up on the program today, this is going to be cool. It's been a very long time for me. This guy kind of went off the face of the earth for a little bit. Not really, because he was still doing Maryland lacrosse, but I would ask him if he ever wanted to come in and tell some war stories and talk, and he'd be like, nah, I'm past that part of my life. Like, really? Steve Stofberg, who you may remember from years ago on the former ESPN Radio 1300. He and Mittermeier did afternoons over there. Steve has done play-by-play for a lot of folks in town, including Hopkins. Currently still the play-by-play voice for Maryland lacrosse. That was rough on Saturday. They scored 5 goals. I mean, good kudos to Hopkins. Now, I don't know how confident Hopkins fans are feeling after they scored 7 goals. I don't know if that makes you believe. You celebrate a win over Maryland if you're Hopkins because that matters. And you celebrate winning the Big Ten regular season title and all of those things. But in the context of can you make a run to Memorial Day, I don't know that that's a performance that makes you say, yeah. As much as it's a good win, got to be better moving forward. But Steve Stofberg is going to join us in studio this morning. I'm really looking forward to that. It's been way too long since I caught up with Stoff. Also coming up this morning, Bobby Valentine. Yeah, that Bobby Valentine. Disguise in the dugout and all. Bobby Valentine is now part of Bally Sports West's Angels coverage. So we'll check in with him, get his thoughts, not really just on the Angels, the Orioles are about to start a series with, but also, of course, on the Birds. And also this morning we will check in with our buddy Jeremy Conn as we do every Monday. That's coming up here on GCR. We need you to get in with your 3 up and 3 down for the week. 3 up and 3 down.
Just 2 down, maybe? Or?
No, there's still. I mean, look, I don't know if you saw the bullpen.
Can we do 5 up, 1 down?
I get it. Lots of choices for up. A lot of guys that fell short of my list that could have been on the list, or I had to nitpick a little bit on some of these guys. A lot of guys that could have made the list. But 3 up and 3 down. 3 Orioles who were up this week, 3 Orioles who were down this week. Get them into me at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter. We will go over ours here in just a second. Today's show brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. proud sponsor of County Sports Zone, countysports.zone. They've got all of the latest in terms of high school sports coverage here in the region this spring. Boys and girls lacrosse, baseball, softball, scores, schedules, rankings, play pick'em, the whole thing at countysports.zone. Proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. So, yes, maybe a brief respite for Albert Suarez. Perhaps he'll be right back there tomorrow. We'll find out. But for a moment, Albert Suarez goes to the other side of the board. And that way we can make way for a pair of men of the match.
All right, so I'm going to start brainstorming again. Would you think it'd be better if I just start pinning them up so that you can face this direction?
I don't really know that it matters all that much.
Okay.
I mean, right. I understand what you're saying. I am extraordinarily good looking, and we're losing ratings every time my face is not facing the camera. I do understand. We're chasing away the millions upon millions
I didn't want to say it explicitly, but yeah.
Young women and men that just come here to look at my face. They actually watch the show on silent because it's only about seeing my beautiful face. I understand, Griffin. Look, this is imperfect, but in a way I almost feel like the shtick might be – no, that's not true. I feel like we should still try to find a way to solve it. From Saturday night, Anthony Santander. The Orioles really tried to screw it up, but Anthony Santander, not just with the bat, but also with the glove. That nice diving catch in right
always
field.
Surprises us with the range. Let's see what his baseball.
The range is not. We did this exercise a little while ago. The range is not great, but every now and then, Anthony Santander will remind you he is capable defensively as well. And then who would have thought? Our buddy Rashawn called into the radio show yesterday. He was in Kansas City, and he was going on about how nervy the game was on Saturday night. And it was, of course, for all of us. And I said, well, the good news is you shouldn't have to deal with nerves at all today because you get Cole Irvin. And I was correct. You're welcome, Rashawn. I was right. Cole Irvin with his best start as an Oriole. I mean, stunning. Like, let's just be as honest as we can be about it. That no one saw that coming. Not from I was talking about bumping him back. Cole Irvin goes 6 2/3.
I mean, last year he didn't even make this start. Like, that was.
Yeah, it's correct. He was gone after his third. That's 100%. Man, somebody would have said he could have been gone after his third this year, but nope. There he was out there for start number 4, going 6 2/3 shutout innings, 4 hits, 2 walks. So that's a sub-1 whip. What a day. What a world we're living in. Cole Irvin out here getting the job done for the Baltimore Orioles. Maybe feeling maybe Albert Suarez made him hear the footsteps. Like, oh boy. Boy, it's time. It's time. Now, a lot of people argue that his stuff was better in his third start. I know Stan is a perpetual Cole Irvin guy. Like, he can't quit him. I don't know. You ain't bumping him out of the rotation after that. I know that much. I will continue to monitor Cole Irvin start by start. This one was awesome. Has he turned a corner? Remains to be seen. But you enjoyed this for sure, as Cole Irvin was man of the match for yesterday. So Santander and Irvin go up on the board. I realized, by the way, Adley Rutschman's had a great start to the season. Has not been man of the match yet.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he hasn't been.
Wow.
I guess he would have been if they would have found a way to come back on Friday because he hit the grand slam, but they didn't. So he's not been man of the match yet this season, and it's not because he's having a disappointing season. He's off to a very good start to the season. It just hasn't led to a man of the match honor yet. So there you go. There's our update on man of the match. Let's roll that right into 3 up and 3 down for this week. And I know that you guys are still getting yours in, and we will share those throughout the course of the day as you answer your 3 up and 3 down. But we will go 3 up and 3 down just to recap the weekend of Orioles baseball to start the show. 3 up and 3 down, brought to you by Atman's Harbor Point. Now open. It's everything you love about the original Atman's, plus they have a bar, a full sports bar for you to hang out, watch games, enjoy their delicious menu, all the deli sandwiches, including the corned beef piled high. You know you love the soups, the desserts, the hand-rolled bagels every morning. Plus, they've got specials every day of the week. Go to atmansdeli.com to find out more. Brand new location, open in Harbor Point. The original is still there. Baltimore institution, Atman's Deli, atmansdeli.com. All right, we start positively normally. Orioles went. They went 5-1 this week. So the reality was it was actually difficult to choose who to leave off the list.
Yeah.
Like I had committed to one pitcher making the list, and then Cole Irvin made me think about it. But unfortunately, Cole Irvin also had a not so great start this week.
I mean, they won the game.
No. Your obsession
he
with
pitched well enough for them to win the game.
No, that's not a thing. He did not pitch well.
He almost got through 5 innings.
Yeah, he did not pitch well.
Allowed 2 runs.
So, unfortunately, even a great start yesterday, the totality of Cole Irvin's week did not match the totality of.
You must be a quality start guy, huh?
It's not just actually, technically, I don't think because you got to go 6 to get a quality start,
Correct,
right?
Yeah.
And
so he did not get a quality
Big
start.
Al did not get a quality.
But I'm saying,
start.
that was Big Al.
Big Al, yes, Albert Suarez is number 3 on my list because it was a miracle. Because and it was funny, we were talking to Rob Long yesterday on the radio, and he and I agree wholeheartedly. If Suarez had gone 3 innings and just prevented it from being a blowout, like gave you some sort of chance over those 3 innings, you would have nodded your head and said, okay, given the circumstances, you'll take it. He gave you a miracle at a time in which your bullpen was being a little taxed. It is so impossible to describe how remarkable that start was. And truth be told, until Cole Irvin yesterday, it was the best start of the week. And then the caveat being that Cole Irvin made another start that wasn't good. So of the starting pitchers, the best week belonged to Albert Suarez. What a world we are living in. He is number 3 for my 3 up this week.
Yeah, I felt like it was tough to figure out which pitcher to put on. I ended up going with another bullpen arm, and I guess I had him last week too, but I'm going Craig Kimbrell again.
It certainly was difficult to leave Craig Kimbrell off the list.
He was, once again, 3 appearances, didn't allow a run. I don't think he allowed a base runner in any of those 3 appearances. He didn't walk or allow any hits in his 3 innings of work, and he had 2 saves, had a win. I mean, all he does is pitch in big spots, and when he pitches, the team usually wins. And Craig
Why
Kimbrell,
does that not feel right? What am I?
That he hasn't allowed a base runner.
Yeah, why does that not feel? What?
He pitched Monday against Minnesota, Wednesday against Minnesota,
and he came in on Saturday.
Yes, yeah.
Why did it feel like things were hairy on Saturday? What is it? Just because Saturday felt hairy in general? Is that what it was?
Was all shaky.
Might be what it was.
But yeah, so Craig Kimbrell again, and gets his 422nd save as well.
Yeah, I mean,
of course,
yeah, right.
Of course.
And found the ball in the fountain, so
Kimbrell,
all was good.
My number 3.
Yeah, look, Craig Kimbrell is a fine choice, absolutely a fine choice, and he's been off to a great start to the season.
So I have him just edging out Irvin and Suarez on my list.
I mean, I'm going to say he would be my number 4, but I don't know. It would be between he and Gunnar to be my number 4. Gunnar also did not make my list. Gunnar,
had to leave Gunnar off mine.
Unfortunate because of the strikeouts. That was the only difference.
And
And part of it too. Number 2 for me is Anthony Santander. Anthony Santander had an awesome week, and Anthony Santander had a brutal week the week before, and so I do kind of like doing the redemption arc for guys. But Anthony Santander finished with 6 extra base hits this week. Obviously, had a huge night on Saturday on top of everything else, and had the home run to tie it up against the Twins on Wednesday. It was a big week for Anthony Santander after a really rough start to the season. And it feels good, and it was it's kind of one of those reminders of like we're gonna overreact to numbers at certain points, but this is baseball, and things change awfully quickly, and they changed awfully quick. The same way they changed awfully quickly for Cedric Mullins, they changed awfully quickly as well for Anthony Santander. And every time you guys are ready to run somebody out of town, just a reminder, this is baseball, and it changes in a hurry. So Santander is my number 2.
Yeah, Santander had a great week. Another one that I had to leave off of my list. I went with Westberg as my number 2, and
I'm stunned by who's your number 1 then.
Do you want me to just tell you? Or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Cedric Mullins is my number 1. I think
okay.
he is. I mean, when he wasn't in the lineup Saturday, it just really really irked me. I don't like. He is. I'm sure I have a good bit of bias, but he is the best outfielder that I've seen in baseball.
That part I agree
now.
with, and adding in the catch,
he adds just too much value to this lineup.
Look, man,
and I don't know what the argument is to ever have him not in the lineup. He's probably the best base stealer on the team that is in the lineup day in and day out.
Yesterday. So I don't know how you feel about that now.
He always he always comes up with big hits.
You put him number 1 on your list. He got thrown out.
And maybe it's because like you saw Suarez pitch in person on Wednesday. I saw Mullins make that catch.
The catch
on
was
Monday
incredible.
night,
Nobody's getting
and,
around. The catch was unbelievable.
Consistently, at least once a week, he's making a catch that will rob someone of extra base hits of an extra base hit.
I get it. I get it. I love Cedric
Mullins. And he had a great week.
It's like, very
defensively
weird.
and offensively. It's just
he had a good week. I think he finished like.
He went 6 for 21 in the week.
Yeah, it wasn't an overwhelming week.
286. I mean, when everybody else, when 3 other guys.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like I don't really. He can't be number 1. The catch was amazing, and I have no problem with him being.
His defense is just.
I agree
valuable.
with you about that in general, and I agree that he would be worthy of making the list. I think number 1 is.
I think he's.
I think number 1.
I think he proves that
way
he
too aggressive.
Has just as much value to this team as Gunnar does every single day, and and Corbin Burns when he's starting. Like,
wow, you're really going for it.
I can't.
I love Cedric Mullins, bro. You know I love Cedric Mullins.
Like the only argument I can think of is, he had 2 injured list stints a year ago, so maybe they're trying to load manage this somehow.
Well, and
that's
also
why he's only going to start 5 games a week. Like,
well, I don't know that it's 5 games a week. I think that Jorge Mateo is always going to start against a lefty. That's the way it's going to go, and they're trying to figure out creative ways.
Of the best center fielder in the game.
I hear you, but I don't think anything that you saw on Saturday and then giving up all those runs was about the center fielder.
I know. I mean, I understand they did end up winning the game, but
they won. But it wasn't really about them winning. It's that when things went south, the defensive problems were actually in the infield on Saturday when the Royals clawed their way back into it. Number 1 was Jordan Westburg. Like, there's kind of no way around that. Jordan Westburg went 11 of 23. 11 of 23 with 5 extra base hits. Like,
it's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah. Jordan Westburg was bonkers this week. So he's number 1 on 3 up. And I love Cedric Mullins. Don't get me wrong. Love the guy. But Westberg's number 1, and there's kind of no debate about that.
I think I've decided on my number 3 for down yet.
Well, that's problematic because we're doing that now. That's what we do. And it's not like I didn't tell you that we weren't doing this in the first segment.
Okay, I know it. Yeah.
Jeez.
I forgot.
All right, so number 3 for me was difficult because it came down to one of 2 guys. It came down to further piling on Austin Hayes, and I could have, although he did have a hit on Saturday, so
you could put him in the same category as Santander. He doubled his hit production from
something like that. I ended up going with Yohan Ramirez, and it feels awkward because this guy doesn't even belong here. Like, you don't feel like you're really even criticizing an Oriole because, like, the likelihood of him being an Oriole in a couple of weeks seems minimal. But that was as bad as about anything I've ever seen in an appearance from a reliever. In the gotta get 3 out era of baseball, or 3-batter era of baseball.
I'm not even supposed to be here today.
Thank you very much. It's
Finally.
exactly been waiting on that one. Thank you, Dante. My God, he couldn't throw the ball near the plate. The only out he got was because Hayes was it Hayes or no? He was out by that. It was Cowser.
Yeah, was it Cowser?
Cowser who came in after Hayes got hurt. Cowser came in and got an out at third base. That's the only reason he even recorded an out. That was atrocious. Like, as bad as anything I've ever seen from a reliever. I didn't want to put him on the list because I don't really think he's an Oriole, but he did pitch, and it was horrible. Like, just truly horrible. So Yohan Ramirez is my number 3.
Yeah, he was my number 3 as well.
Just as bad as bad
good.
can be. Number 2 pains me because, again, it's like the opposite of Santander. Just a week ago, we were singing his praises and talking about what a tremendous start he was off to for the season. But yuck, Keegan Aiken.
Yes.
Yuck.
He went he had 4 outings this week. Each one was a third of an inning or 2/3 of an inning or less.
Well, I don't know specifically. I mean, in some of those circumstances, it feels like that might have been by design.
To get one out.
Yeah, I don't know enough about each outing. I just know that on Friday. I'm not willing to throw away everything that Keegan Aiken has done so far and suggest that it's all for naught, and it's bad Keegan Aiken again, but you can't, again, in a week where it was difficult, in a week there were only so many guys that had bad weeks, you can't pretend like Keegan Aiken wasn't brutal in 2 of his appearances during the course of the week. For the record, in the other 2, the one on Wednesday, he only needed to get 1 out, and the one on Saturday, he only gave up 1 hit and got 2 outs. So, those 2 weren't bad. Those 2, in fact, the one was totally fine. But the other 2, again, gave up 2 runs on Monday against the Twins, and then on Friday, really could use a shutdown inning. Really be a great moment for that. Well, there it goes.
My number 2 as well, Keegan Aiken.
Are you just copying me
No,
now?
I'm not copying. This was the list I had.
You got mad at me picking apart your list, so you just said.
To say the exact same guy.
Just going to start
Want me to
copying
go first then for my
Glenn's
number
list?
1?
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same for both of us. Pretty sure. Like some week, like last week, number 1 was easy on the upside. Like it was the easiest it'll ever be for Colton Cowser to be number 1 on the upside. This week, sadly, about the easiest it's ever going to be for number 1 on the downside.
Yeah. Hopefully the easiest it'll be for
I hope,
for this
yeah.
player.
Yeah, I hope. Yeah, it's Jackson. Look, it's what it is. And when I have this conversation, somebody told me, somebody whose opinion I respect in this business was like, dude, you got to stop pussyfooting around about this. You gotta come stronger with this. I'm like, dude, I don't. Again, I get it. I get the people that think you just got to do what they do on ESPN. You just got to do what they do on Fox. I don't have a stronger opinion about it. I don't believe that Jackson Holliday should be sent down today. But it's the same thing I said, our buddy Ryan Ripken, who I love, that was doing the Gunnar Henderson bit last night on Twitter. Like, hang on, let me pull it up.
I thought you were talking about the other one where he was like, some guy also started 1 for 30.
That's the Gunnar Henderson bit.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no. Oh, he's talking about Cal, right?
Yeah.
No, he did the Gunnar Henderson bit. Blind test. Would you have called down this player last year in mid-May? 33 games played, 17 for 100, 37% strikeout rate. So I went back to see exactly what date it was when Gunnar Henderson was 17 for 100. And on the exact same date that he was hitting 170, his on-base percentage was 341.
That's pretty good.
Now, look, he needed to start hitting, but he was still being wildly helpful to the baseball team. He was still getting on base more than a third of his at-bats or plate appearances. Jackson Holliday's not doing that. So, yeah, I'm going to be more critical of Jackson Holliday than I was Gunnar Henderson at the time last year. But as I said yesterday, it's also because I think the games matter more now. I think you're trying to win a World Series, and I get it. It's easy to say, well, they went 5-1 last week. Jackson Holliday didn't cost them any games. Hypothetically, yes. You want to get into the, hey, if somebody else was in the lineup on Friday, I don't know. But sure, hypothetically, Jackson Holliday's struggles are not hurting the team, wins and losses wise. We can go back. We could look. Would they have won one more game against the Brewers with one more productive bat in the lineup? I don't remember who played on Saturday, so it's hard for me to remember if Jackson Holliday was in the lineup, but that was a closer game. Maybe with one more productive bat in the lineup, they do win that game. All of the games matter more now. Maybe we're not as hell-bent about winning the division because we saw what happened when they won the division a year ago. I'm still not at the place where I'm ready to say, I get it. The evidence didn't look great for helpful to win the division, but I'm still not at a place where I don't want to win the division. And those games could all matter in the race for just getting into the playoffs. The Rangers nearly missed the playoffs altogether a season ago. I can't just say it's okay for Jackson Holliday to struggle forever because the Orioles are winning games anyway. But that doesn't mean, and I mean this when I say it, that I think Jackson Holliday should go down today. It means there's got to be a brighter spotlight in the next couple of weeks. Something's got to give because it continues to look like Jackson Holliday is pressing is, I think, the best word to use. It might be affecting him mentally a little bit more than we're letting on. It just doesn't look good. And as was pointed out by a few folks, this was not, the strikeout portion of this has never been part of Jackson Holliday's story. And I do think he's been squeezed a few times. But it does look like right now he's trying to swing his way out of a slump every at-bat. And at some point, it's got to matter that the games are too important. I do think that right now you can still prioritize, hey, this is part of his development, and he's going to work through it, and it's all good. And I agree. I'm not saying send him down today. But if it keeps looking like this, I don't want to wait for them to lose 4 out of 5 for someone to say, hey, you guys noticed there's kind of some dead weight at the bottom of the order? I think they have to keep watching it. You would hope that that's not going to be a problem. The same way that a week ago I said, hey, at some point it's going to matter if Anthony Santander's struggling. I do think that it's got to matter for everybody when they're struggling. It mattered for Austin Hayes, right? Austin Hayes struggled to start the season, and there was a better option, and now Austin Hayes is a part-time player, and we'll see. It sounded kind of cryptic yesterday after the game from Brandon Hyde, like maybe Austin Hayes is going to need to go on the IL. And if that's the case, then there might be a path for Heston Kjerstad to get a roster spot. Or Connor Norby, I guess. Or Kyle Stowers, too. I don't know. But you got to monitor this. You can't pretend like it's not happening or just say, hey, any day now it's going to click. Well, any day now it might click, but what if it doesn't? And I don't think it can stay this bad because this is, historically bad. But it's got to be helpful soonish. What's the date? I don't have that date. What's the week after the Athletic Series? What do they do that week?
Yankees.
Eesh.
Yeah, Yankees.
In New York, right?
No, here.
Here? Okay.
4-game series here against the Yankees, and they're at Cincinnati.
Okay, all right.
Day off and 2 days in Washington.
Maybe it is after next week. Those Yankees games are really important. They're really important already, head-to-head, because the Yankees are off to a great start. So maybe it is after next week. But it ain't today. I'm not saying that. I don't feel that way. This is not a hot take thing. This is not a... But it shouldn't be a hot take to say that a team that's trying to win the World Series can't continue to carry someone on their roster that isn't getting on base. Although he did have a walk, right? So that's not nothing. It's not nothing.
And he lined out, at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, I get it. He's hit the ball hard a few times. And I do think that some of those will start falling. I'm not even betting that he's going to end up being sent back down. I think they'll start falling. I just think we have to acknowledge it. All right, that's 3 up and 3 down. We'll get it up at GlennClarkRadio.com, and we want yours throughout the course of the day at GlennClarkRadio on Twitter as well. When we come back in, I'm very excited. I've been wanting to do this for a little while. My old friend Steve Stofberg, you remember him, longtime Baltimore sports talk host. You say you remember him. You still listen to him, doing Maryland lacrosse games. We're going to come in. We're going to catch up. We're going to chat. Maybe we can even get him to moo. You don't know why. You don't even realize the connection there. We'll talk about it next. Steve Stofberg is in studio with us on a Monday. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Hey Birdland, celebrate Orioles manager Brandon Hyde on Saturday, April 27th. Watch the Orioles take on the Oakland Athletics at 4:05. Be one of the first 20,000 fans 15 and over and receive an exclusive Brandon Hyde 2023 AL Manager of the Year bobblehead. Come out early. Gates will open 2 hours prior to the first pitch for Early Bird Saturdays with happy hour, live music, and more. Join in on honoring the O's skipper and buy your tickets today at Orioles.com/tickets.
Hartford Community College will host the National Junior College Athletic Association's 2024 Men's Lacrosse National Championship and Women's Lacrosse Invitational on May 11th and 12th at Hartford Sports Complex, 401 Thomas Run Road in Bel Air, Maryland. The semifinals on May 11th include the Women's Invitational, with the Women's North A representative playing the Mid-Atlantic B representative at 10 a.m., and the Women's North B representative facing off against the Mid-Atlantic A representative at 12:30 p.m. For the men's championship, the number 1 seed will play the lowest remaining seed in the quarterfinal round at 3:30 p.m. The men's number 2 seed will face off against the highest remaining seed at 6 p.m. May 12th is reserved for the national championship games at noon for the women and 4 p.m. for the men. Tickets are $20 each day at hartfordevents.com or at the gate if available.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hungry? With 7 locations throughout Maryland, Glory Days Grill is always right around the corner. They have wings, burgers, salads, sandwiches, and drinks to satisfy everyone, as well as tons of televisions and sound delivered right to your phone. Glory Days is the best place to watch football or whatever your favorite sport is. While you're there, be sure to check out Goose Flights Lager, named in honor of legendary Raven Tony Goose Siragusa. $2 of every can is donated to the Goose Flights Foundation. Glory Days Grill. Great food, good sports.
Oh, honey, we better stop for gas soon. Let's pull into that Royal Farms.
Ugh, gas is so expensive.
Nope, it'll be cheaper than you think.
Why's that?
I signed up for Rofo Pay on the Royal Farms app. Now we save 15 cents per gallon at all Royal Farms.
Wow, that'll save us a ton of money. I love you more every day.
Well then, don't get a speeding ticket this trip, okay?
Sign up for Rofo Rewards and upgrade to Rofo Pay and save 15 cents a gallon on gas for a limited time. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
I could just look at this book for the rest of the day. So Steve Stofberg, as promised, has joined us in studio here in a Monday edition of GCR. And Stoff, all right, so I got to go back a little ways because Griffin is only 24 years old. 23?
23, yeah.
23.
Baby.
So Griffin doesn't even know all the history. Like, when I said Steve Stofberg's coming in studio, unfortunately, I don't mean to offend you. He was like, who? I said, you don't understand how long I've been trying to get Stoff to do this. You have no idea. I've been asking Stoff to come in here for a long time. So a lot of people, if you're a certain age, might most remember Steve Stofberg from the 5 o'clock cattle call.
Oh, my gosh. I forgot about the
No, you
5 o'clock
didn't.
cattle call.
No, you didn't, Stoff. There we go. And so you have no idea. Griffin has been obsessed since Colton Cowser came up to the Orioles.
He took my cow picture down.
With Moo. Yeah, when he's asked that whenever Colton Cowser is man of the match that we put up a picture of a cow. Right? And so whenever I bring up Colton Cowser, he'll just make that moo noise. And the first time he did it, I said to myself, oh, you know what that reminds me of?
Yes.
I want to get Steve Stofberg back in here. And so the irony is that you just so happened to call me one day as I was thinking about this, as I was having this conversation and wanting to get you back in.
Sure.
You don't know this, but I once called in as a young man in Baltimore to the 5 o'clock cattle call with Steve Stofberg and Paul Mittermeier on the legendary ESPN Radio 1300.
That's too funny.
Stoff, I love you, man. It's great to see you, brother. Thanks for coming in here and hanging out with us.
Thanks for having me. I certainly appreciate it. You know, that's great to hear because whenever I do get somebody who says, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You know, or,
yeah, right.
Hold on. You listen. You sound like whatever. And my question always back is, so how often did you call in? And, of course, you get like, Oh, I never called in. I was like, why not? You know, that was like,
Admittedly, I only called once.
I'm so glad you did.
I only called once. If we had a conversation, I actually called Tom Davis quite a few times when I was a young man. But I mean, you wouldn't have wanted those calls because that was like pimping. Do you think they could sign Mike Bielecki? He's from Dundalk. Like, that was those types of calls that probably wouldn't have been as fruitful for the show. No, I was a fan. I've told Mittermeier a few times over the years, I listened every day to you and Paul in the afternoon. And so getting to know you guys was always a thrill for me. It was as a young man, it was a real pleasure to get to know you guys and how kind you always were. And not everybody in this business is always that kind. I've told that story a number of times, but you guys, Steiner, like a bunch of people that a lot of times you get a young punk kid that comes into a business, it's easy to say, oh, F that guy. And
Griffin.
yeah, correct, 100%. That's the way that I have felt. F that guy and his dumb lists. But every time you guys had the opportunity, you were always very kind to me, and that meant the world to me as I was coming up in this
Glenn,
business.
you do a great job, and it's great to hear just how you are the old guy now.
yeah, right. Trying to pull somebody else along.
For the young
Trying
guys. Absolutely. It's terrific.
Trying to get him more jobs. Trying to find ins for him because I can't afford to pay him much more. Like, I got to find him other jobs at some point.
I understand. Hey, look, I appreciate the free parking. Thank you.
Yeah, that's, by the way, well, we actually have to talk about that in a little bit. I didn't mention that in the earlier text that we had. But, hey, you know what? Maybe we can see a guy about a thing in order to get that taken care of. Stuff. So I have so much I want to cover with you, and I want to talk some Maryland lacrosse with you in a little bit. But I just want to start with you. People ask me about this business all the time.
Yeah.
They constantly ask me, one of a few questions. Why'd you get into it? Well, I don't know. I like sports, right? And actually for me, it wasn't sports. Truth be told, it was my start was the legendary 99.1 HFS. It's all I ever wanted to be.
Awesome.
Was an HFS DJ. Like, that was all I ever wanted to do. And they said, hey, you could come in from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. on the weekends and do an overnight shift. And I thought, I said, if you would let me have this job for the rest of my life, like if I could ink a lifetime contract, I would do it right now because it was all I ever wanted to do. And at 21, then, of course, that radio station didn't exist anymore, and I needed some other options. And I was like, hey, I kind of like sports too, and I don't think I have other skills. For you, what was your path to doing this originally? Let's start there.
Sure. I was a University of Maryland College Park student. I had gravitated towards sports throughout my younger days. I guess what I didn't realize was that when I was watching the NBC Game of the Week, was it Scully, Garagiola?
Garagiola, sure, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe Tony Kubek thrown in there.
Wow.
Right? All right. I guess I didn't realize that I was also listening. Certainly, how could you not listen to Oriole baseball growing up?
Chuck Thompson.
Correct. The Colts were still here when I was growing up. Yeah, that's how old I am. Griffin.
Yeah, close. Griffin's not even as old as the Ravens are. Like,
you did know they were here, right?
Yeah.
Thank goodness. All right.
Griffin's actually, there's a reason he stuck around. Griffin's going to be able to do this for a while.
But just listening, I guess. While I was watching, I was listening. And, of course, when there was games on radio, I was listening. So when I went to College Park, I wasn't thinking about that at all. And it was that one of those first moments for me which made me think, you just really do have to keep your eyes and your ears open. And it was freshman year. I mean, I was moved into the dorm for all of a week. And one guy happened to be social enough. Of course, back then we were all more social because
there's no phones. You weren't just spending 8 hours a night looking at apps, and you actually had to go talk to somebody and make a friend. Hey man, I'm bad with my phone. I will admit I am not. I spend too much time on the phone.
But I will say that guy walked the hallway and he just said, and just knocking on doors. And just saying, hey, did you see this flyer for the open house at the campus radio station? Anybody want to go? And I just I just did.
Did you know?
It was him and I.
Okay, before
that
that
was it.
day, did you know what you wanted your path to be? Did you, before that moment, did you?
I knew what I was going to study in
Okay.
school.
And what was it?
But I was an engineering major.
Okay, all right.
So I knew what I was going to study.
I'm convinced that
Was I committed to it? No.
I think there's a conspiracy with big engineering.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever noticed.
oh,
every
boy.
high school guidance counselor, you take one of those aptitude tests.
Okay.
Like, what are you supposed to do for a living? I swear to God, every single one of them comes out to engineer. I am convinced that big engineering, there's a conspiracy going on.
Wow.
I'm not Alex Jones. I want to make that abundantly clear. I'm not crazy, but there's one conspiracy that I am convinced of in this country. It's that big engineering has its claws in our institutions.
That's okay. I'll take that over the swamp any day.
That's fair.
Yes, I'll take that any day.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Please.
So
enough of that. Anyhow, so yeah, I just happened to go with him. He and I were the only ones, and then we ended up with the. Now, he mentioned, Griffin. Look, Glenn mentioned his first shift and his shift time, but think about the least desirable college air shift that there could be.
Now, wait a second.
And that would be.
Yeah.
That would be.
I was going to say the morning shift would probably be less desirable in college because you don't want to be awake at 6 in the morning.
Friday morning, 3 a.m. to 6 a.m.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Going out after Thursday night.
Yeah.
And then Friday, 3 to 6. And then the next semester, we got promoted to Friday morning, 6 to 9.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Morning drive, baby. And there's so many drivers on campus.
Yes. So that was our first shifts. Right. And, after about a year, I was just on. He was the DJ. I was just sort of the cohort. But then, I realized there was a sports department there. And so he said, hey, man, like sophomore year, I think I'm going to go pledge. I'm not sure that I'm going to, do the radio show. And I said, yeah, I was thinking about checking out the sports department. And that's where it really got
so
going.
when did you realize you had your, okay, I'm not trying to be disparaging towards myself. I do not have the classical booming voice. My voice is fine. My voice is. It doesn't hurt me in any way. Stop.
Why do I want to keep talking to Griffin?
No,
by the
stop
way?
it. Stop
It's
it.
the
Stop.
educator
Stop.
part, right?
Stop.
Neither did I, by the way.
Really?
Correct.
Okay. Because the only thing I've ever known of you is you sound like a man who was born to be on radio.
Oh.
You have that type of voice. You have that. So you didn't have it, you're saying, at that point. It wasn't that you were born and everybody just said, dude, you sound like a man that's supposed to be on the radio. That's something that came.
Right. I worked on it in college.
Yeah.
But it was college radio. So you could work on it.
You could do a lot of things. You could do a lot of things on
if
college
I'm on
radio.
HFS, I'm probably not working on it.
Yeah, probably the case.
Yeah.
Probably the
but,
case.
yeah, in college, so those tapes, by the way, are buried somewhere.
I kind of like to find them. I
hopefully
kind of like to track them down. I wouldn't want to find my own. I would never want to hear my own.
They're cassette tapes.
Yeah.
Oh, and listen, Paul and I remember at least on one occasion, like dared ourselves to bring in
and listen,
the old air checks, put them on the radio, on pro radio, and listen to you, and then it's like callers call in. I remember that at least one time, and
You don't want to hear. You don't want to hear that. You never want to.
I brought mine. My first air check in.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it wasn't that bad.
A lot of that.
But it was kind of like this: 3 words, and I was out of breath.
Was it about Mike Bilecki? I'm telling you, I called into Tom Davis and suggested they should sign Mike Bilecki.
My first one was to Jeff Rimmer.
Okay, sure, 100%.
WBAL, and to ask him if we had an update on. Shows you how deep I was. Just like you were as deep as you were, if there was an update on the health of New York Giants, I think running back Doug Kotar.
Wow.
Who died of cancer. But that was like a news thing where all of a sudden he couldn't play anymore. And he wasn't like he was a star player.
Right.
But, yeah, because he had cancer. And he
just took a turn, stuff. I don't know where we go from here
Come
now.
on, what do you think his answer was?
Yeah. Got to be honest with you, young man.
I don't know. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate the call. By the way, Griffin, there was a time in our history where that was how we got our sports information. This is straight we would just call the sports guy on the radio station in town
right.
and ask if he could tell it, because we didn't have an internet. We had no. It was the newspaper. We got everything that we could out of the newspaper in the morning, and then whatever the newspaper didn't have, we called the local call-in show to see if you think the conversation is bad on sports talk radio today, we were just calling with our own. They wouldn't even suggest a topic. They would just say, "All right, your calls," and it would be about anything at all in the world. Again. I called in to ask about Mike Bilecki. I don't even know what Mike Bilecki's career numbers were. But he was from here, and I wanted to see him be an Oriole, damn it. I don't even know what his was he a free agent? Probably not. I was a kid. So you get out of college. You say, or did you start working while you were in college? Did you get a job while you were in college? What was the first?
Actually, well, yes. But really, my first internship was with Bruce Cunningham. Fox 45.
Somehow you survived. I can't believe that. Somehow. I would have thought you would have raced out. You would have.
Fantastic times.
Love Bruce.
With Max Morgan.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Yeah. Max and Bruce.
So.
That was an education. Let's just put it that way. And with that, just because that was here, of course, my hometown was here. I wasn't College Park oriented. So, okay, I'd make the drive up, do my Sunday night internship, drive back. That developed into my first job. Bruce happened to be announcing on 1300 because of the Baltimore CFLers.
That's right. It was actually how I fell in love with football. I was a tyke when the Colts moved. I have no memories of the Baltimore Colts. My first my love of football was I went to every game those 2 seasons. I was obsessed.
Fantastic.
Obsessed with
at Memorial Stadium.
100%.
Terrific. What section?
We were in. So hang on a second. I don't know the number.
Oh.
No, but I can do this because you got to base it on the 55-yard line in Canadian football. We were on. Okay. If the old outfield was to our left. We were on I guess that would have been the third base side, at about the 45-yard line.
Okay.
And I don't know what section that would have been because you got to remember stuff. I was still 12 years old at that point.
And I guess you weren't number inclined.
I was not.
Yes.
I was not. Yeah. So 11 years old, whatever I was, because it was 94, 95. Yeah, I was 11, 12 years old.
When Dad had the Colts season tickets.
Yes.
The NFLers.
Yes. The NFLers. That's not bad. I like that.
Yeah, it was Section 4.
Section 4, okay.
Yeah. So, we were definitely, corner end zone because that was more towards where the dugout
right.
would have
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you get the Fox 45 and you get the in at 1300 with Bruce Cunningham.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, then an NFL team happened to move to town.
Right.
Bang.
And everything changes.
Correct.
Everything changes.
You keep your eyes and your ears open.
Yep.
Okay. And when you're young, you start making connections. You start working things that you never thought it would be of interest to you, but since it's related to the thing you're interested in,
100%.
You're young, you're not paying bills, get in there.
So what were you
start establishing?
What were you doing at that point? When the Ravens arrived. When the Ravens arrived.
Well, so I was working at 45.
Yep.
And actually had been working before college was done.
Okay.
Because they were growing at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. Imagine the media business was growing.
That is
imagine.
They signed on in 91 with the news.
Yep.
So yeah, I was within the first couple years.
Okay.
And so they were growing, and then my first full-time job was 1300.
Wow.
Because an NFL team moved to town.
Wow.
And it's great being here. Of course, the guys that are the forward guys here, aside from those that are announcing like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, John Colson, his Ravens radio sales days. Stan Charles.
Yep.
Was on. He was brought on the 1300.
Well, everyone was part of that crew.
It was great. It was great. And yes, my first program director was the program director for an easy listening music station. So he was like, "What are you doing in sports?"
Late 1019.
Yes.
Yep.
You got it. So what were you doing in sports? Okay, that's great. And then that was it. So that was even more fun. Of course, I didn't know what I was doing. It was my
Yeah,
first
right,
full-time job. I mean,
right.
I just know I wasn't dropping any of the dirty words.
That's all that mattered. That's all that mattered. Steve Stofberg is in studio with us.
Can you do here now?
We could. We try not to.
Good.
We don't want that to be. We. It's not.
It's just curious.
It's not my shtick, right? Like if we had an audio, here's the difference. If somebody, the way that we used to have to edit audio clips, like if someone went on a tirade after a game, and we would probably play that unedited because we would just give a warning like, hey, adult content alert, something like that. So that's nice, but I don't want it to be. I have no interest in being the old Howard Stern. Howard Stern doesn't want to be the old Howard Stern. Like I have just no interest in that anymore. So. I think if that's what you're looking for, you're probably going to go somewhere else anyway.
Proud of you.
All right, so you get into the business, and now you're working full-time. You're with Ravens Radio. You start doing your own talk show. This is, again, people got to remember, this predates the era of, like, there being sports talk radio stations in every town and it being a significant part of radio. The first year that ESPN 1300 had local programming would have been...
Oh, well, would have been 97. That was when Stan came to the station. Yeah.
Right. Stan, of course, had been at FBR and had done late-night shifts and everything like that. So 97 is when ESPN Radio 1300...
You know, the first year, look, 1996, all right? You know from when the Ravens had their first draft.
Yeah, there was no colors. There was no...
What was that jersey
You say you
like?
know. I'm not sure that people of a certain age know. Jonathan Ogden was selected by the Baltimore Ravens and was at the draft because he was expected to be a very high draft pick. The Ravens had no logo. The Ravens had no colors.
Correct.
The Ravens had nothing but a name. That's it. That's all they had. So Jonathan Ogden held up the single most generic jersey. It's a real piece of Ravens history. I don't know who has it.
Ooh.
I don't know where it is. I feel like it should be on display in a museum somewhere
Right.
because it's the most bizarre thing you'll ever see in your life. If you were to see it today, like a young man who has no idea that this was a thing, but there were no – it was very fly-by-night is kind of what you're saying.
They had to, right? I mean, they were still in the process of just trying to move into the complex at that point.
Yep.
Which has become a place where we all have worked.
Yes, correct.
Post NFL training.
Well, this
camps
was
like
the old complex. This was Stevenson University.
You got it.
Yes. This is where, for those that have ever been over to Mustang Stadium, this is where the old Colts facility was.
Correct.
And that's where the Ravens were working out of at that point.
So that was, and so likewise with radio, it was the same thing. The timing even of that, right? First preseason game was August 3 of 1996, and I believe I was hired, and our first full staff meeting was about 2.5 weeks prior to that first preseason game.
Good luck, boys. Go figure it out.
Correct.
Yep.
Because maybe the radio rights had just been awarded.
Sure.
About a month before that, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks prior. I don't know.
It's so crazy.
But the first game was August 3, and
get to
it. The first broadcast was then. So yeah, 96 was like, hi. Good to meet you.
Right. What we doing here? Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a game this week. Sure.
Figure it out. Sure. Figure it out. You didn't get stuck in the elevator at all at Memorial Stadium, did you?
I did not.
No. Other people did.
Phew.
I believe Eric Mangini is on the list of people that were stuck in the elevator in that first season.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. But yeah, so 97 was really that first year where you had the off season.
Yep.
Okay. We could start to plan a little bit.
Yeah.
I say we, but really they
sure.
start to plan.
Sure.
And
You
I
were
was
still
like, huh? What am I going to do now? Okay, great.
Yeah. So when do you get your first talk show? When does that start?
Well, you know, and I will preface it by saying that I was like the station producer, and so Stan had Paul and I helped, but it was just on occasion because I guess my domain was more the weekends.
Okay.
All right. The Saturday talk shows.
Sure.
And
who would have been hosting those Saturday talk shows?
You want to take a guess?
I'm trying to. Oh my God.
Okay.
Was Ken Rosenthal doing it?
Correct.
Okay. I thought I remembered that.
Right. Ken Rosenthal had the first show, and he was followed by Bruce Cunningham and Tom Addy.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
So I really had those shows. There were other elements that were getting produced through the weeks and so on. But and so of course, just like Griffin, yeah, I was a chime in guy,
sure,
as needed.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time it got to 1999, that's when the station started to explore additional programming, and that's when Paul and I came on because we were young, cheap,
sure,
it's worth it,
and
let's see if we can sell out 1 hour of just called the Raven Show. That was it. This was the Raven Show.
It's the most generic name I've ever heard in my life. But you know what?
I held up a black and white jersey as well.
Yeah, correct. First round pick of the Ravens show, Steve Stofberg. So I can't even find an image of this Jonathan Ogden jersey. I can't find it anywhere.
It was just like a pullover almost?
No, it was a jersey.
It was a jersey?
But it had no colors.
And I can't remember if it said number 1 or if it said 96 on it. Like I don't really remember. Yeah, I don't remember.
So
there was that. That was the start.
Right.
And the show did well. And we came on just our launch was just as as Ray was going through the Atlanta trial.
Wow.
So our first hour suddenly became we were like court radio.
Yeah, right. Yeah, this is exactly the way you're trying to talk. Imagine this your entire life. I just want to talk about football. Like now you got to talk about forensics.
Hey, I was proud of what Paul and I did. I mean, we had producing in our background.
Sure.
And so, hey, look, it wasn't it wasn't touchdown calls, but we had testimony on the air. Like but the recording of something like that in those days.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, Griffin was us recording on the VCR.
Yeah, 100%.
And then, do you know what that is? Right, just
Yeah.
checking. Right. And then dub over, so we watched it, analyzed it, had the lawyer on with us too. What does this mean? What does that mean? Discovered a lot of things during that trial. And that was the start. And it was a great great run through the duration of the contract, which was the first 10 years of the team.
So you guys moved to doing daily shows.
We did. Yes. And that was the Raven Show was a daily show. It was just positioned for 1 hour.
Okay,
that
so
was it.
when it expanded, at what point did it expand?
Of course, why do you think it expanded?
Because it was doing well.
Because it sold.
Yes, correct.
We know that's what drives things. Yes.
So it expands, and you were doing full afternoon drive.
Right. Yeah, well, at the time, the station was sports was still after Stern in the morning.
Right, yeah.
Don and Mike in the afternoons.
Yeah, that's correct.
G. Gordon Liddy midday. And I think we bumped the Grease Man. I think.
Oh boy! Oh boy! Goobity goo! Yeah. Duck Tract. Very interesting individual, Duck Tract. What a fascinating character.
I did go to the Ring Dang Do one time.
Did you really?
When I was a college puke, absolutely.
God,
That's how I was addressed on the air.
That was a different.
Right?
That was a different.
And oh gosh, now I brought some pictures in. Yes, from my
Ravens radio
days. But I should have brought the pictures in of my college buddies and I going to that.
That is a different world,
because
man.
As part of it was the Rigo Report. John Riggins.
Oh, right, John Riggins, absolutely.
And at that time of morning, John Riggins was like just out of the duck
right.
out of the duck hunting blind, or maybe it was the deer stand up in the tree, and he was just like, "You want to take a picture of me?"
All right. So how long does the show goes off the air in when? When does your
officially cooked at the end of 2004?
The end of 2004,
which was a year before the end of the contract, Ravens contract.
Yeah.
But I still stayed to produce the games.
Yeah.
And then there was like a part-time role. Yeah, so I still really maintained a station presence.
I was going to say, because I remember coming, I started at 1300 in 2005. Yeah. So I remember coming into contact, but I couldn't remember the entirety of the story because by that point, I think
I was just the guy feeding you all the Ravens sound.
Yeah, I was working with Bill Rowland, and I was doing the stuff when they put Ed Norris on FM. I was started with him. So you at that point, because this is the part where everything gets fascinating.
Now, is this in an effort just to try to get some memory back?
I was hoping that you could clean up some of it. No, it gets fascinating for me, and part of the reason I want to do this because I remember reconnecting with you down the road. And I remember having a conversation where I was like, are you doing anything else besides Maryland lacrosse? And I remember you saying, no, I'm a math tutor. That's what I do now. And I wonder if you could take me back to 2006, 2005, that range.
Sure. Okay.
And where you were in deciding what you wanted to do. And I used the phrase like getting out of the business.
Oh.
And it's not like you fully got out of the business.
Correct.
But you primarily got out of the business, which so many of us are incapable of doing. Like we are, it's like our identity. If we're not doing this, what do we have to offer the world, right? Like we don't, you make the decision or take me through what it looked like, what you decided to do when the contract ran up, when the show was no longer going to be on every afternoon, and why you were able to transition and say, yeah, I'm good. I don't need this.
I'd like to, just to even say that when my days were done as a full-time guy there, it was part of a lot of consolidation. And that was,
it's a word we've used quite a bit over the years in this business. God.
Hey, all the publicly traded companies squeezed every dollar out of the industry and now have just left it as a, essentially, well, let's face it, the company I worked for handed it off to somebody else just so they could assume all the debt. But that's because they stripped all the money out of it for the shareholders. Get it? Hey, that I don't. That's the American way, and I'm all for it. But having said that,
all for it, he says. I guess
I'm
capitalism.
totally on for capitalism. Yes, absolutely. But I will say that I've never fully ever gotten out of it.
Right. It's not, and that's what I mean. Like you didn't.
I was never like they brought me back in.
Right. Right. But you not doing it every day.
Correct.
To me, that's getting out of it. Right. Like that really is because it gives me. My wife and I will talk about it sometimes, and I'll say like, is it time for me to just move on? Is it time for me to recognize I'm in my 40s? I got 2 young kids. I don't need to be doing everything that I'm doing. Right. And she'll say, like, well, could you get a job where you could still do, some of your other play-by-play? And I'm like, I could. I don't know if I'm ready. So to me, even that qualifies as moving on.
Gotcha. Sure. In the beginning, look, I had really good severance. And so, I had time to try to plan things out a bit. I was not prepared for being let go. But even still, it was within a few weeks of January, because it was to get off the books by the end of the year.
Yeah.
That I was getting called about doing some work.
Okay.
I heard you got let go, man. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, right.
Are you free and available? Yeah,
right.
I am.
Right.
I'm still not thinking of anything. So the bottom line, that full-time thing, I think it's a lot with anybody in any industry. You miss the people. You don't miss the work.
Yeah.
You don't miss the grind. That's really the thing, the grind.
But was it purposeful for you to get, like, did you say to yourself, I don't want to do this every day anymore? Or was it just like an opportunity?
Total opportunity.
Okay.
At the time, I had started to try to plan out 2 different businesses that were radio related.
Yep.
That would essentially take advantage of this consolidation that was happening, not just in Baltimore, but all across the country.
Sure.
So I was planning that, and so as sports work kept finding me, then and I kept taking it.
Right.
It continued. But as you said, right, it is not, here's your shift, show up, here's how how to prepare. You have to go to you have to go to every press conference that there is.
Right.
Player signing, that kind of thing, team practices, whatever. You don't have to go to that. So yeah, I understand. That's where you kind of get out of it from a full-time thing. But that's where it started to open me back up to the play-by-play aspect.
Sure.
As we were saying, right, I was the one that was getting Raven Sound, and I did that for like 4 years. So, but that was just on a part-time basis, and that was just more seasonal. especially. So, just to start kind of melding that together, right. But then it opened me up, too, with the possibility of what else to do. And as you mentioned, I mean, that's what it grew into. I was just fortunate enough, and I think as I've talked to people who are trying to think of making that jump into their own thing, but based on their lifetime work experience.
Right.
My advice always is, just because of the path that I happen to take, and I don't know that I plan this out, but it is like, well, get it started while you're working. Stay on the salary, but start developing
your thing, right?
So that you can make a transition rather than, I quit. I'm out of here.
Now what am I going to do?
I
Correct.
need this business to start paying me in 2 weeks.
Correct.
Okay, which of course it won't.
One of my
so I think I was just pretty lucky.
When I have the conversation with people, and I'm not trying to tell anybody that I'm trying to get out, but I'll hypothetically discuss this possibility, and I'll say, but I don't like the idea of cashing in 20 years worth of work for doing something else where I'm going to have to go to the bottom, right? Like
sure.
It's terrifying.
You sound like an adult.
The idea of, well, I've got 20 years worth of equity in doing this thing,
right,
and I'm just going to get rid of it. I'm just going to say, well, it was worth nothing, and now I'll just I could have done this 15 years ago and started at the bottom doing something else.
Indeed.
It's a terrifying feeling to go through something like that. Did you go through those feelings at all as you were transitioning out of?
No, because again, my life was, I was still getting paid to do sports work.
Yeah, so that was
right. So it just wasn't full time.
Yeah.
And then I was having to figure out my health insurance situation.
That's terrifying as well.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
But I wasn't really, to be honest, I'm a Baltimore guy.
Yeah. So you were going to be here.
Yeah. I wasn't like,
okay,
which radio market am I going to
It's so
now?
stuff when the radio station that I was at for a few years went under back in 2014. I had San Diego, I had Louisville, I had Las Vegas. I had these great markets that I was like, I could work in any of these places and I'd be happy. And then my wife, who I had just married within the year, said, you sure can.
Oh, gosh. Right.
I said, well, wait a second. Well, like, we? She said, nope.
Yeah.
You can go enjoy yourself in
Understand.
Louisville or San Diego, wherever you want to be. And I said, well, I guess I won't be doing that. I guess. I'm also not going to cash in my marriage over my pursuit of these things.
Which, as you heard Glenn talking about the nice guys and the not so nice guys in this.
Oh, there were plenty of guys. Yeah, plenty of them.
That would have been like,
all right,
well,
I'll miss you. I'll miss you. I'll remember you fondly.
Awful.
It's just the way that it goes now.
And yet, as a producer, I would say, but sometimes that's what makes them great on air.
That's true. Oh, there's absolute psychopaths. Absolute psychopaths.
Yeah, you can't not. Yeah.
So at this point now, I know, obviously everybody knows you do Maryland lacrosse.
Yeah, so that has still, right, that is still a thing.
Yeah.
I don't actually know how many years I've done it.
Really?
I think I'm above 20, but I'm not entirely sure.
Wow.
And yet that shows you I haven't taken the time to go, okay, wait a minute. Let me see. Whose roster do I recognize here? Right?
Yeah, what's the year that I can mark this down for?
And the other sport that I announced right now is football for Johns Hopkins on their video stream.
Yep.
Those are the two. And that was just born out of the days when Johns Hopkins was on the radio doing lacrosse. I feel very fortunate that there is still a lacrosse team
on the radio. Yeah, it's very rare. Very rare.
I always joke with guys who happen to have some kind of radio. They're still doing something radio-oriented. And that's my first greeting is like, am I actually talking to a radio guy? I know.
Man, I gotta be honest with you, I don't remember the last radio play-by-play that I did. I did DC United radio for a minute.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I was doing the Sirius XM Patriot League Game of the Week for a little while, if you want to count that, but that wasn't terrestrial radio. It's been a minute. It's been a minute since there's been any radio play-by-play in my life.
That's like my two things. And, is there sort of another opportunity here or there?
Yeah.
Yes. For a buddy, sure.
Okay.
But most of it's,
it was
all not radio.
Stuff. It was interesting to me when I first broached the idea of you coming in to sit here and do this with me.
Yeah.
You were like, "Yeah, I don't know, man. I kind of moved on. Like, I'm just not. I'm kind of not trying to do that. And it was just
Gotcha.
fascinating for me, like, wow, you've really separated yourself. Like, you really – because I was hoping you would come in here and, like, you know, say horrible things about Paul Mittermeier. Like, you're going to air all the dirty laundry, like – say what a jerk Mark Viviano really is. Everybody knows that. Terrible guy. Just awful. That's one of the nicest guys in the world. It's truth be told, I don't do that type of radio. It's just not my thing. Like, if you want to know who I don't like, it's because I don't talk about them. Truth be told, the secret is, and I have people come up to me all the time, like, who do you like? If I talk about them, it's typically because I like them. We get along. If I don't talk about them, you can kind of be sure it's because I don't like them. And they're not worth me spending any time on them. I'm not going to trash them. They're just not worth talking about. That's the way that I feel about it.
There you go.
You probably can know where that list starts if you know me. That's the way that I feel about it. But it was interesting to me that you really like kind of said I've kind of separated myself a little bit. Like that's kind of not. I'm just not that guy. And it's fascinating to listen to you talk about your other business and like when I want it to be clear. Like, that's what I'm doing. You're not hiring Steve Stofberg, the sports guy.
Oh.
You know, like, that's – it was a fascinating way for me to, you know, an actual business person, someone who actually knows what they're doing.
Kind of. Figured it out.
At some point. I really was kind of blown away by that. Like, wow, I guess that really is important.
But it really does go back to how I started.
Yeah.
It was a dude who I barely knew say, did anybody else see the flyer for the open house, the campus radio station?
Right.
I mean, that was my first ever thought. And so just definitely more married to the area, married to the people that I know, not married.
Oh, by the way,
yes.
It was about John tracked down the T-shirt. Oh. He found the T-shirt, not jersey.
Okay.
But there's Jonathan Ogden holding
a T-shirt.
A T-shirt.
I don't remember that.
I don't remember that either. I could have sworn it was a jersey. And that even seems more like there's actual like lettering on that. I swear to God.
Yeah, because I don't know that they.
Yeah, correct.
They might have known the name. Yeah, we knew the name.
We do know the name.
Right.
100% we knew the name.
Right.
Because Art Modell had held up the sign. It's Ravens. Do you remember what the other two were? There were three finalists.
Okay, yeah. The Bombers.
That was the one I was obsessed with. Now, also, remember, I was 13. At 13, I was also wearing bomber jackets at that point in my life, and I really liked the idea of it being the Baltimore Bombers. So that was one of the three options.
You know,
I think the third one was the worst of all of them.
Okay, which is probably why I forgot it.
Now, I just wanted to confirm this before I say something stupid.
I was going to say maybe it had some connection to the film Diner for whatever reason. Were they the Baltimore Boogie wine glasses or something like that?
Well, remember, the Bombers were the team that Boogie – that was where the name came from. The team that Boogie was trying to put into Baltimore was the Bombers.
Oh, the Bombers. Okay.
That was where the Bombers came from. I believe the third option was just the Baltimore Americans, and it was just the dumbest name I had ever heard in my entire life. Like, there's just no way that this can actually be the choice. I do remember the Marauders being thrown out at one point, too, but I don't believe it was a finalist. I'm trying to confirm all of this to make sure that I have
went with the
this
right
correct.
name, it sounds like.
Yes.
Yeah.
In hindsight, yes, but I'm telling you, that day where he held up that sign down at Camden Yards and everybody was losing their minds, old Glenn Clark was shedding a tear. I think I had actually, Stoff, you know how embarrassing I was? I think I had made like a homemade Baltimore Bombers T-shirt that I wore, like with like permanent marker written on a white T-shirt that I like wore to Perry Hall Middle School in my excitement about the idea of the Baltimore Bombers. I was so all in on the Baltimore Bombers stuff. I wanted it badly.
Those years beforehand, I'm sure that you have people that watch you that own a Baltimore Cardinals T-shirt.
Oh, sure. Yeah. It was a genuine belief that the Cardinals were coming, 100%.
Yeah, Bill Bidwell was, starting to shop his team and figure that out.
Oh, okay. All right. So I was actually doubly right. There were actually 5 names on the ballot.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris. 5 names on the ballot. The choices were the Ravens. The Bombers didn't make the finalist list. That doesn't seem right. I think, Chris, you found something inaccurate. The Bombers were definitely involved in the conversation.
Okay.
The Mustangs.
All right, the horse connection.
The Colts, ironically, you know.
Right.
The Americans.
There you go.
The Marauders.
Okay.
Marauders definitely was. And the Railers. I guess for the B&O, like that's all that
absolutely.
is.
Sure.
What a suck name Railers would have been. What a suck. Also, literally one letter away from the name of another team in the league. What a suck. Whose idea was Railers? I want to track that person, then I'm going to find out it was art, and then I'm going to feel bad. Like, what a suck name Railers would have been. I thought that Americans was the worst on the list. It's somehow only the fourth worst.
Well,
it was still bad.
Let's just put it out there that, of course, we're talking nearly 30 years ago
Yes,
now,
correct.
right?
Correct.
And so I give kudos to the Washington Commanders for being the football team for a few years. And now, please call them the Utah Hockey Club.
Utah Hockey Club.
And don't run a
God, what stupid name are they going to come up with for
new
that?
nickname.
God, it's going to be so dumb. It's going to be Washington Wizards level dumb.
Kraken worked out pretty good. Like,
Kraken actually is cool.
Yeah.
Kraken's cool.
Take your time.
Yeah.
Take your
right.
time.
They're just gonna stick to something stupid. They're gonna find the first stupid thing somebody. It'll be like the bees, because isn't Utah the bee state? Or they'll be the Utah Buzz. That's exactly what they'll end up being. Is the Utah Buzz?
Like skiing related? I don't know.
No, they for whatever reason, Utah's the bee state. I don't even know what that's all about.
Okay.
But like the newspaper was the Salt Lake Bee, and I think the minor league baseball team is the Salt Lake Bees. Like it's the bee state. So they'll definitely end up being the Buzz, and they'll think that's so cool. Like, look at us, we're the Buzz. Catch
the whole
buzz.
crowd's gonna be going. Bzzz.
Yeah,
That'd be
that's
pretty cool.
exactly
I don't
what it's
know.
going to be.
I was really it was just good to see. See, it's like lessons learned from Baltimore, right? So, okay, the Coyotes are not following
Yeah,
to
the
Utah,
history. Thank God you said that out loud.
Right?
Every city. I don't know how much you care about this. Do you get offended as a Colts fan when you see the Indianapolis Colts do all of the we're going to wear the throwback and they trot out the video showing Lenny Moore and showing John Mackey and Jim Parr. It is infuriating. And again, this is on behalf of my father, not even for me. It's infuriating.
Of course. Yes.
Sure, the Ravens stumbled into it because of a lawsuit, but that's the way. We learned the way to go about doing this.
Right.
You have nothing to do with the history of another city. How bloody awkward is it to try to celebrate another city's sports history like it's your own? I can't imagine why anyone would want to do that. I'm grateful that it worked out the way that it did, because the idea, we don't even like looking up and seeing Ernest Biner's name in the Ring of Honor at the game. Nice guy, great guy, but like, come on, man. Like, we don't like that. Imagine if you look up and see all of them. Imagine if you looked up and there was Jim Brown and there was, like, somehow you had to celebrate the entire history of another city and pretend like you gave a rat's ass about it. No. They do that in Washington where they have all the Montreal history there. Like, dude, what? It's creepy is what it is. Stop it. You figured out how to move a franchise. Leave all the history, all the records, leave it all behind in the previous city.
Hallelujah. Amen.
I got nothing else. That was the end of my stump speech. I'm Glenn Clark. I approve this message. 2nd District. See how that goes. All right. Look at how this hour has flown by the way. Steve Stofberg is in studio with us today on GCR. Today's show also brought to you by Sports and Social, which is the best place to watch all of the big events. The playoffs going on right now. Reserve your spot to hang out at Sports and Social inside Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Maryland lacrosse scored 5 goals.
I know.
On Saturday against Johns Hopkins. I get it. Part of that, Hopkins, their defense outstanding. And by the way, not all of those goals. The first 2 for sure were man up. There were not a lot of
correct
even strength goals that were scored.
Only 3
on Saturday. Why haven't they been more consistent offensively this season? I get that there's no Logan Wisnauskas, there's no like one true alpha there, but there's a lot of really good pieces. Why have they not been more offensively consistent?
Yeah. And that's the one where, if they knew.
Yeah, of course, they'd be fixing it, right.
Like,
yeah.
Oh, down
yeah,
with
right.
Hopkins. All right.
Right.
No, but seriously, I guess a couple of things come to my mind. Number one, it is about putting pieces together. You have to have different types out on the field that can just offer in different ways. And so, maybe it's maybe it's a little too uniform amongst the guys who deserve to be out on that field, but you just have, I don't know, you have too many right-handed hitters going up against a right-handed pitcher, or maybe it's the other way around. I'm not a great baseball guy.
Mm-hmm.
Lefty versus lefty, something like that. So to me, like, that's one element to it. Of course, any team has to figure itself out as well. But then the second thing is the offensive coordinator, who did well at Navy.
Yep, but came in late. Yeah.
That's a tough thing.
Mm-hmm.
And yet that's not the first time it's happened.
Mike Phipps is the offensive coordinator.
Correct. The offensive coordinator before that was Bob Benson, and he came in just as late, But at that time, he came in just as late when they were assembling the super team.
Right.
Correct. And no team will ever live up to 22. They're not trying to live up to 22 when it was, let's face it, Daniel Maltz, who had scored, that season, just think about this. Daniel Maltz the previous year, with being on attack with Jared Bernhardt and Logan Wisnauskas, he had 37 goals, and he got benched for 22. That's how
loaded
talent
they were.
they had. So, but you're not asking Daniel Maltz to do that again. Daniel Maltz has his game, as does Eric Molliver, as does Daniel Kelly, and just in terms of putting those pieces together, they haven't found that right. They haven't found that right mindset yet, or maybe they have, and keeping it together for 60 minutes just hasn't happened, where it doesn't become hero ball. Sometimes it does when the pressure's on. I am not saying that's what happened on Saturday, because what has been happening are turnovers.
Yeah, there were some brutal possessions in
a lot of turnovers.
Really brutal possessions as the second half went on.
And that's not endemic to the rivalry game. It's just what's been happening during the season.
So you mentioned the rivalry game, right? You've done a lot of things in this business.
Yeah.
What does doing Maryland Hopkins, like, where is that for you when you get to do it? Where is it for you on the list of, like, I'll talk to Medhurst about doing Army Navy, and he's like, dude, like, he had the option to do a huge game for Big Ten Network recently, and it was the same day as an Army Navy lacrosse game that he was just going to be doing on the radio. Like, and he just said, no, I'm not giving that up. It's Army Navy. I won't do it. Like, I will, in any sport, I have the opportunity to do an Army Navy game. I'm doing an Army Navy game. What does doing Maryland Hopkins lacrosse mean to you, and where is it on the coolest things that you've done?
As a series, yes, the coolest thing.
Yeah.
Other than being there for Raven Steelers,
Sure.
It's funny. I don't even have like an Oriole comparison, even though there are.
Are there though? Are there? I mean, like, opening day, is always a cool feeling.
Always fun to
right?
beat the Yankees.
Yeah,
Sorry.
sure, it's fun, but it's not. I don't think that there's. I don't think
baseball.
There's too many games that are played during the course of the year for any one of them to stand out all that much.
Right. But still, yeah, no doubt, Hopkins, Maryland, love it. Having it back now, yes, out of COVID, and so
there's 10,000 people at a lacrosse game.
Correct.
It's just so hard for anyone to grasp
and if it was
the gravity of that.
If it was at College Park, it would have been greater than that.
Right.
It would have been more, just because there's
they can't fit more people inside Homewood Field. Like, that's the limit. They're like, this is the cutoff. We don't have enough seats. We're already going to force a bunch of people to be standing somewhere.
And they gladly did.
And in a way, to me, it is kind of special when it is at Homewood Field, because you get this, like, you feel like you're at a rock concert. Like, there's no empty seats anywhere. There's no, like, there's just something about it that's so unique and so uniquely ours. There is no parallel to that. Like, a person in Sheboygan can't understand that. Nobody in Boise could get what that day means for this local community, right? Like, this day stands out on the calendar as, for this community, it means everything. It's that important to everyone involved. Special, man.
I'm on board with that having been the 120th matchup edition of the rivalry. Not the 127th as claimed by Johns Hopkins.
Oh, there's a little controversy involved there. They think they've got a few more wins in the series, perhaps, than
I might hear about that when I start football
Dude,
this fall.
The number, yeah, that's right. You still work there too. The number of times, especially if I do and you know this doing D3 football. The number of times the record keeping is just bad, and like you convince yourself like, hey, these numbers, you've got the history at this number, and you've got the history at this number. Is that because there's a Stanford Cal thing going on here? Is it just somebody's keeping bad records because you're working in D3 athletics? That's all that is. Colson, what are you worked up about over there? What Colson's like balling up his fists in the other room. I don't even know what he's mad about.
The only reason the record. Think of it this way. What's the intelligence factor between Hopkins? and
So you're saying the Hopkins records are the only one?
Hopkins records.
Colson's from a Hopkins family, yes. Colson's from a Hopkins family. So yeah, that makes sense. Actually, the more I think about it, that makes sense.
Awesome.
Man, Steve Stofberg, this is flown by entirely too quickly.
I can't believe it. There wasn't even a stop set in here.
I blew right past it, and I'm going to get in trouble for that later. Well, I got to get to Bobby Valentine in a couple of minutes. So, can I plug anything for you?
No, sorry. Yeah.
Stofberg, I love you, man.
My broadcast schedule is done for
this
spring.
academic year.
You got it. You know, that was we do 5.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, selfishly, that's a little bit frustrating because we get to the tournament, and I really would like there to be a radio broadcast when I'm driving around.
Again.
Yeah, I know. I'm not talking to the wrong guy. That's not your. I understand. But
lacrosse radio.
I feel the same way about the place where I work. Like I feel the same thing where I'm like, I'll bring it up to him every now and then. I'll be like, look, man, you know, I know you're headed out to Denver for the first round. Like I would have to be. If you would like me to go to a broadcast, we can talk about it. I understand there's frustrations, and it's a whole thing. Really love doing this. Would love to do this again. Would love to have you come in here and hang out with us again and just talk shop, man.
Sweet. Thanks
Steve
for having
Stofberg, it's been a pleasure, man. That's a great Steve Stofberg in studio with us. We are going to get into Orioles Angels conversation as they open up a series tonight. Bobby Valentine. Yes, that Bobby Valentine is part of the Angels broadcast crew now on Bally Sports West. So we will preview the series with him next. It is a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Discover one of Baltimore's hidden gems at Guilford Hall Brewery. Enjoy dinner in our spacious brew pub, sip a signature cocktail in our outdoor dog-friendly beer garden, or take a tour of our brewery. Discover your new favorite local craft beer. From crisp lagers to hoppy ales, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Pair your brew with delicious appetizers and entrees. There are options for the whole family, but you have to try our fan-favorite giant pretzel. Guilford Hall Brewery, where every sip is a celebration. Visit us online at guilfordhall.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin, and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
Oh, honey, we better stop for gas soon. Let's pull into that Royal Farms.
Ugh, gas is so expensive.
Nope, it'll be cheaper than you think.
Why's that?
I signed up for Rofo Pay on the Royal Farms app. Now we save 15 cents per gallon at all Royal Farms.
Wow, that'll save us a ton of money. I love you more every day.
Well then, don't get a speeding ticket this trip, okay?
Sign up for Rofo Rewards and upgrade to Rofo Pay and save 15 cents a gallon on gas for a limited time. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Craving that classic New York deli experience? Look no further than the new Atman's Deli in Baltimore's Harbor Point. Corned beef piled high, hand-rolled bagels, and something different. A bar! Atman's has food and drink specials every day. Now open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Dine in, grab takeout, or hang out at the bar for the next O's game. Atman's Deli, an authentic taste of Baltimore tradition since 1915. Find us at Harbor Point or visit atmansdeli.com.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis. AJMichaels.com.
Hungry? With 7 locations throughout Maryland, Glory Days Grill is always right around the corner. They have wings, burgers, salads, sandwiches, and drinks to satisfy everyone, as well as tons of televisions and sound delivered right to your phone. Glory Days is the best place to watch football or whatever your favorite sport is. While you're there, be sure to check out Goose Flights Lager, named in honor of legendary Raven Tony Goose Siragusa. $2 of every can is donated to the Goose Flights Foundation. Glory Days Grill. Great food, good sports.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
Yeah, Proctor says it could be the Utah Sting. It could be. Definitely could be. Although, this is Charlotte.
That might be my team.
It's the Charlotte Sting, right? It was the basketball team.
Oh, was that?
It could be the Utah. God, I hate it. I hate it. I mean, not just because I'm a Coyotes fan. You just know that's where they're going. Thanks again to Steve Stofberg for hanging out with us this morning. That was a lot of fun. Appreciate him telling some old war stories. It was great to catch up with him. And yeah, Maryland fell to Hopkins 7-5 on Saturday. So Hopkins, the regular season champion in the Big Ten. Maryland still the 2 seed in the Big Ten tournament. So they are both off this week. It is a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Coming up a little bit later on today, Stan the Fan Charles, Ross Grimsley, Luke Jackson will get back together to talk some baseball with you. They're going to do it a little bit earlier ahead of Passover. So coming up this afternoon at 3 o'clock, Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline, or PressBoxOnline.com/video if you miss it live. Stan the Fan Charles, Luke Jackson, and former Oriole Ross Grimsley going over the week that was for the Birds. You can find it all at Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. Orioles open up a 3-game set out on the West Coast tonight as they take on the Angels, who we saw back on opening day here in Baltimore. Joining us now, a pleasure to catch up with, of course, former MLB manager, now part of the Bally Sports West Angels broadcast team. He is Bobby Valentine, and he's with us this morning on GCR. Bobby, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes for us early this morning.
Hey, Glenn in Baltimore. Good to be with you. Here on the West Coast, a little overcast, but it's going to be a beautiful day.
So tell me about, Bobby, we saw the disaster that was the first 2 games of the year for the Angels, which it was wonderful for us here in Baltimore. And then they have this players meeting, and it looked for a minute like they were really getting things turned around. What is the issue that has prevented them from playing more consistent baseball so far?
Well, they really haven't hit the way the team should be able to hit. You have, Mike Trout, who's had some home runs and has looked good at times, but, only hasn't driven in a lot of runs, hasn't had a lot of guys on base. Had an experiment with Anthony Rendon, who last time you saw was taking 0-4s, and then, he got really hot, and now he got really hurt. So, when you look at the team with the Brandon Drury and a Zach Neto and a Nolan Schamuel, to name 3, they haven't hit up to standard at all, and I think they will.
So you bring up Nolan Schamuel. There was, of course, the story of how his on-base streak ended with the appeal from the Orioles. Is there any still bad blood there, Bobby? Is there any, should we be worried about the Nolan Schamuel revenge series this week against the Orioles?
Well, he's due to get hot, so I hope it will look like revenge. Yeah, he had a great on-base streak, and he's a guy who will get on base. He has a very good eye, and my dog wants to be part of this.
That's all right.
Interview, obviously.
What's your dog's name, Bobby?
This is JB actually wants to go for a walk. I won't wait because I can't do two things at one time. So I don't know if there's revenge, but I think he's gonna get a lot of hits, and he's the guy who sees the ball really well, has a good swing, and is going to be around for a long time.
We're seeing, of course, Reed Detmers tonight. Boy, he has looked unbelievably good to start this season.
Well, he's a left-hander who throws 95 with 3 good off-speed pitches, so you know what that usually means. That means success, and he's had his success early in the season. He's gotten a couple breaks when he's pitching, which he deserves, because he hasn't gotten any of them in the last 2 years, except for, I guess, the no-hitter that he threw. And he's good as a young guy. The bullpen is okay. I think the bullpen still needs to pick it up a little, but I think there's enough arms in the bullpen to get you through a season in a very positive way.
Bobby, and to the idea of enough arms, right? We're not going to see Sandoval this series. We saw him on opening day. We will see Canning this week. It feels like if those two guys could get things going, then this could be a completely different story. Like it's funny, my cohort Griffin and I have had this conversation before. Every time I look at the Angels, I keep saying, well, they've got dudes. Like there are dudes there. It feels like they're capable of being better than they are, and I would think that Sandoval and Canning would go a long way to that being the story.
Oh, I'm with you 100% there. Canning is a little off with his fastball, but a great competitor, really good fielder on the mound, has 4 pitch mix, and can do a good job when he's starting. He hasn't had his good velocity command. I mean, his fastball command, and he's lost a little on his velocity, but he's still a really good pitcher. Patrick Sandoval is one of those enigmas. He's left-handed with really good stuff, a great athlete. Just that one thing goes wrong, and it seems like a crooked numbers on the board, and you're backstroking the rest of the game. He had a situation the other day where the second play of the game, an overthrow at first, took 4.5 minutes from an umpiring crew to decide that the ball hit the screen, and the player was able to be awarded second base. And Patrick stood out on the mound for 4 minutes with his arms folded, like, the world was against him. He got the ball back in his hand, and a double, 2 walks, and a grand slam, and the team was down by 5 runs. And that seems to happen every once in a while with Patrick.
We're chatting with Bobby Valentine as the Orioles and Angels get ready to open up a 3-game series tonight in Anaheim. Bobby, I'm an unabashed Ron Washington fan. I loved Ron Washington in Texas, and he was a guy that, a couple times we thought about here in Baltimore over the years when there were openings. I don't know. I keep coming back to, I feel like there's enough personnel there that it should be better. I don't know how difficult of a job that is. Obviously, there's the measurement of, can you keep Mike Trout happy? Does he want to be in Anaheim forever? Does he at some point want to be somewhere else? What is that job really like, and how uniquely do you feel like Ron Washington is suited for handling this job moving forward?
Well, I think Wash is, consistent in thought and action. What you see is what you get. He's a really good baseball man. He likes guys to take the job as a job and come to work every day and put the hours in. And he believes that when you put the hours in and you work at your job becomes something less than work. And I think he's the right guy for the job. And how tough it is, I don't think it is all about Mike Trout. I think it's just a situation right now. This team is trying to find an identity, and an identity that Wash wants it to be aggressive, hardworking type of guys. And it really hasn't been that for a while. It's been laid back. It's been, scheduled off days. So every 8 days you get an off day, whether you need it or not. And Wash has brought a work ethic and a different aggressive mentality that needs a little time to settle in.
Can I ask you a little bit about the Orioles, Bobby? Because, I respect your opinions so much about it's hard for me to not get carried away. And I still wonder a little bit if they have quite enough pitching. But you saw this group the first weekend of the season, and they can hit, and they can hit, and they can hit even a little bit more than that. And they do have a Corbin Burns at the top of the rotation, and Craig Kimbrell's off to an amazing start to the season. Like, do you look at this group right now and say that's a team as constructed that can win a World Series?
It sure seems it. The crazy thing, looking from afar, is that since this little switch hitting catcher stepped in the lineup,
all they do
really
is win.
Changed. Yeah, they've changed their entire persona. They are a team that goes out and plays and wins so much more than not. And from afar, you wonder, are they ever going to have that 2-8 streak? And almost every team goes 2-8 in 10 games. And I don't think Baltimore has done it since Ashley's been there. And you wonder how they rebound when they, get a line drive caught in the ninth inning with the bases loaded and you have to walk off the field with your head down, or you have the injury at the wrong time that you can't fill from the minor leagues. But they sure do seem like a team that is all steam ahead, that is ready to go to the playoffs and make a long run. Whether or not they get the breaks to win a World Series, I don't know, but it seems like the talent is there.
Can you speak a little bit, too, because you bring up Adley Rutschman. I don't know statistically that he's ever going to be, a Mike Piazza home run power, or even a Joe Mauer, although this year he's hitting 300 to start the season this year. But as you point out, winning has followed him. Like, the moment he arrived, everything about this organization changed. Do you feel like that's the power, that when you have that type of catcher, that there can be, whether it's the pitching staff and the improvement that we've seen there, the leadership, whatever it is, that beyond statistics, there's a value to Adley Rutschman that maybe we can't define quite the same way?
I believe there is, and sometimes that angel is there with the halo that makes things happen. Obviously, in LA here, the team's name is the Angel, and they haven't had the halo.
Right.
Yet, even though the Logan O'Hoppe, the catcher that is now the main guy on this team, is the Adley Rutschman type of guy. He personifies leadership and confidence and caring about a pitching staff and caring about the wins and losses. It's hard to get anyone in uniform these days, other than maybe the starting pitcher and definitely the manager, who really care about the wins and the losses. There's a lot of other things on the minds of many players, but I think in the case of these two catchers, they wear the record of the team on their sleeve, and that's really different.
Can I? This is a hypothetical. Again, I know you don't know the ins and outs of what Brandon Hyde does as a manager of the Baltimore Orioles, but I have this theory, Bobby. Like, when people will bring up that, you get it all the time. Somebody will complain about a lineup or complain about a move that's made. I think that Brandon Hyde's a good manager because I don't think you can create this type of culture and how much winning and losing matters in spite of your manager. Like, I just don't believe that it's possible that it can be done in spite of. I don't know that he's responsible for it because I think, solely because I think the players are really good, obviously. But it just feels to me like there's no way that he can't be thought of as being at least a significant part of the story of how the Orioles have gotten to this point. Am I crazy to feel that way?
No, you're very sane. I think he does a spectacular job. And the job is that he has been fortunate enough to have Rutschman there to be one of his disciples, all right? But he has more than one. He has created that environment in that clubhouse where there are people speaking his gospel, and that's what a leader needs. You could go to the battle line with just as many tanks and infantrymen as the guy on the other side, but the general has to decide how to employ all of his weapons and they have to believe that it's the right way to do it. And the only way you get that belief when you're ready to go to battle is by having, everyone on the same page, having those disciples out there preaching the same message, because you don't know if it's right or wrong until it's all over. And, when the season's all over and you look back, you know whether or not your commander was directing you in the right direction. And so far, Brandon Hyde has done just that.
That's the way that I feel. I have all the respect in the world for him because of it. Bobby, I've never asked you this question, I don't think. Can you take me back? How close were you to maybe being the manager of the Orioles back in 2010?
I think, it might have been close. I was working at ESPN, and I had the interview, and I felt that, that Peter was going to give me a call, and I didn't feel good about it. I didn't feel like it was the right time for me to go to Baltimore and take on the task at hand. And basically, I told the guy I was working next to, Buck Showalter, to have his agent call down to Baltimore.
Wait, really? Hang on a second. This is really significant. You suggested to Buck that he should pursue the Orioles job.
Yeah, when I came back from the interview, I don't remember the exact conversation, but we were working side by side at the time.
Yeah, at ESPN.
And I said, I gave him the intel on the interview process and told him what I thought about what they were looking for, and he went down and did the job.
I think we owe you a fruit basket, Bobby. I think we got to get one of those edible arrangements sent out to you.
Well, actually, it was a little self-serving because Buck was taking too much time on the ESPN shows, and I wanted to have it.
Did you know that at the time, that it really was a place where you could go? It's hard for people to remember. In 2010, things were still kind of bleak. I mean, Andy McPhail had made some. What we would find out were shrewd trades that became fruitful. But did you know what might be coming for the Orioles at that point, or were you fearful that we're going to be mired in it's gonna be tough for a few years?
I really felt that there was a lot of work, that there needed to be a major commitment, and like I said, I wasn't ready to give that commitment, and I thought Buck was.
Wow,
and it turned out that he was.
Wow, that is,
and it was a major commitment. It was, everything that he did.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
He had to change the locks on the doors. So and he likes to do that.
Oh, and by the way,
that worked out great.
But Bobby, the Buck is one of my favorite people and a regular with us. And 100%, if he's got to change the size of the benches, he's going to change the size of the benches in order for it to
make
fit.
Make sure they're the right color also.
Yep, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Bobby Valentine, it's so great catching up with you, man. What else are you doing besides the Angels these days? What else is going on in your world?
Well, I'm trying to get rid of all the things that I've done in my life, but I still have some businesses out there. I'm involved with a nice film company that's doing a lot of cool things. We actually, the president of my company, produced the greatest beer run ever. I don't know if you've seen that on Apple TV, but it's pretty cool, with Peter Farley as the director, and that was fun. And we have a few other projects in the works. And I have my baseball academy that still works in my hometown of Stamford. But waking up in the morning and looking at the Pacific Ocean every day and watching sunset seems to be like a good thing to do.
That
so
doesn't stink.
That's what I really enjoy doing.
I do remember we chatted with you at one point with a project that involved Nick Kroll, and I can't remember what it was. But now I absolutely remember us chatting at that point about it and remembering you getting into the film business. Bobby Valentine.
Yeah, it's fun.
A pleasure, man. Thank you for spending some time with us this morning. Enjoy the series this week. Would love to catch up with you again down the road.
Anytime. Thanks a lot. And I hope that the bus breaks down and everyone has to walk to the hotel and they get distracted by the beautiful waves and other things of Southern California.
Understandable. Appreciate it, Bobby. Thank you
care.
for taking the time. Bobby Valentine with us this morning on GCR. Well, I've never heard that before. Maybe that's out there. maybe people were aware of that, and I just wasn't. I don't know. Had you ever heard that before? That Bobby Valentine was the one that
I did not know that. No.
Bobby Valentine
Buck
suggested Buck Showalter. Let me just see if that comes up anywhere. That to me is a I don't see anything about that. Hang on. Tim Kirkchin in 2010 reported former Bobby Valentine, who also, but he doesn't say anything. Bobby Valentine, who also interviewed for the job, told the Orioles on Wednesday that he was no longer interested in being a candidate. Eric Wedge has interviewed, but is expected to be interviewed again, this time with Angelos in attendance. I don't see anything about Bobby being the one to suggest to Buck to make the phone call. We really do owe the guy a fruit basket, man. Thank you, Bobby. And the point that he makes, that he said that I just think that Buck has more of that in him, that he wanted to go to a more ready-made situation. Well, that is wild. Wild. Well, now we're going to have to talk to Buck about it. Get to the bottom. We got to make sure we can corroborate it. I can't imagine that Bobby would make that up. But that is that's cool, right? Like, I think dude, that really was like a cool moment for me. That it's Bobby Valentine that we might have to thank for the fact that Buck Showalter ended up being with the Orioles. What a world. What a day. How about it? All right, do you want to take a break, or do you want to just call Jeremy? You want to just call Jeremy, and then we'll take a break? All right, we'll call Jeremy.
Trying to get this breaking news tweet up, you know.
Well, I don't know if that qualifies as breaking news as much as it's just, like, neat, you know? Like, it's a neat story that I had never heard before. And I think I'm appreciative of it. Now I'm starting to do, like, the history of the Orioles, of Bobby Valentine never says to Buck Showalter, hey, by the way, I was down there in Baltimore, and I really think you should try to get involved in the process. What ends up happening? They hire Eric Wedge? They just promote from within? Is that Rick Dempsey? Does Rick Dempsey become the manager at that point? I don't know. I don't know these answers. If you haven't picked up the new print issue of Press Box yet, you can go do it today on the cover. Grayson Rodriguez, great cover story from our own Luke Jackson, diving into the Orioles and what they're hoping will be their new homegrown ace moving forward. And so far, so good this season. Also, some Lefty Drizel memories in this print issue of Press Box. You can find it all. Get to your neighborhood Royal Farms right now and pick up this new print issue of Press Box. All right, this man was ripping it up yesterday. His son turned 21, and they went crazy. I mean, they just went wild playing paintball. Joining us now here on GCR, our buddy Jeremy Conn is back with us. What's going on, dude? How are your bruises and welts this morning?
Well, so I didn't play, but they had enough people there, so I wasn't going to jump in and run around in what I was wearing. So I just stayed for a couple of their matches, and then we took my son out later that night for hibachi, which it's kind of funny. Do you like hibachi?
I actually do, and it's how we celebrate all of my son's birthdays. Like, that's the go-to.
I like it too, but I was a little disappointed that we didn't get to play shrimp baseball with cutbacks.
Wait, they
played zucchini.
They didn't throw shrimp at? Oh, shut up! Oh, I'm out.
I swear to God, they threw zucchini out.
Hang on a second.
The place we went to, and I'm not like,
yeah,
I'm not even going to mention the name because the food was fine.
Can you tell me
good.
Can you tell me what town it's in, or can you text me the name of it? Because
yeah,
we have a real tragedy in our lives. Like, Jeremy, you don't understand how much this has impacted our lives. We were regulars at the hibachi that was in Hunt Valley. And it closed in, like, February, right before my son's birthday. And he was despondent. I mean, beside himself. So we ended up going to the one in Parkville, or whatever you want to call it, Loch Raven, that little, that one right there. And it was fine, and he enjoyed it, and we got all the same stuff. And it's the same bit at every one of these places. Like, they're all doing the same shtick.
Yeah.
So, yep, 100%. The volcano, and by the way, I pop every time. I mean, it's like the New Age Outlaws coming out and doing the you didn't know, and they're 65 years old. I don't care. I'm still popping.
You know, my favorite thing is the kids when they're first timers, and we had I would say about a 2-year-old sitting at our table, and it was their first time seeing it, and just how big their eyes got. And it is kind of an awkward way of how to meet people because you just get sat next to randos and, maybe inappropriate. I talk to everyone.
Of course you do. Of course you do. You're rubbing
But-
their
but,
leg
like-
halfway through, which is awkward. Not the child. Of
Yeah,
course.
so I got chicken and well, it's my favorite thing is hot sake, and I didn't think the hot sake was good there, so I only ordered 2 large carafes of it.
Right.
Um,
You cut yourself
so-
off after that. Instead of the usual 7.
Yeah, I just keep pounding because I love hot sake, and so I ordered chicken and lobster. I said, let me get a little risque. Usually I'll do like some little combo or whatever, and that they have set up. I said, let me get the lobster. Well, they forgot my lobster. My wife's looking at me. I said, I'm pretty sure they put it on last. It cooks really quick. Then the guy started scrubbing the grill, and I'm like, hey man, I ain't got no lobster.
The thing about that is.
But you know, the interesting part about that is it gave me a business decision where it's like, I mean, I'm kind of full because I've been eating.
Yeah,
their food
that's the
whole
way it
time,
works.
right?
In the body. Like you get way too much food, but because
And-
they
and so
span
I'm
it
not,
out.
Like, complaining or I said whatever's easier for you guys. But like in my mind, I didn't want to bring lobster out and then take it home to microwave it. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
that's
Like
that's
so I
no
was just
good.
like,
Yeah,
take it off the tab. So anyway, that's what we did for his birthday, and I kept trying to. It's so weird with alcohol because when you're old enough and you don't drink, which my younger son, he's not sure if he wants to, and everybody's pressuring him. Like, here, man, take this, try this and see if you like it. Try this. And I include myself because I did it with hot sake. And I said, okay, you don't want it. Are you sure? Come right back to it. But he didn't want to drink, man.
I mean, look, dude, I'm not knocking that. It's a thing now. We were talking about this yesterday. Like the number of, and I know some of them do like the California sober bit where they're like, yeah, we're mostly sober, but like every now and then. I am convinced. Colson was explaining this to me recently, and the beer companies are having a problem with this. The way that we were when we were 21, when we were going out to the bar, like that was what we were doing every weekend. Every weekend we were finding a place to go to because these kids have like the internet and they can play video games with each other online and they can get on all these websites and they can meet girls there. They don't have to go to, like it's kind of dying, that world. And with it, I just don't think they feel the need to drink the same. Like if we were going to go to the bar, what were we going to go to the bar and do? Show up and not drink? Like we were going to drink.
And that's one of the things that kind of pisses me off. You know how like older players get mad at younger players for how much money they're making now?
Right.
Whenever we talk to them.
Right.
And you talk to, and I'm not talking like 5 years ago. I'm talking like, you talk to one of the guys that's been retired for 20 years and he's like, that guy's making how much?
Right.
It feels like kind of the same way when it comes down to some of this stuff of just how we're looking at it. Because I think everything you just said just makes perfect sense with what kids are doing. But I'm so angry at this generation because I think most of my childhood trauma was me asking out girls and hearing
getting
no.
denied, right?
And these kids, all they have to do is just swipe as many times as
and
they want. Somebody responds,
you
like,
know ahead of time whether or not you're like 100% the amount of time. I feel this too. I've talked about this with Griffin, like with when we have new producers, like the idea of when they go try to book a guest and they get a negative reaction back and they're like really shell shocked by it. I'm like, dude, have you never like talked to a girl? Like the number, like asking to book a guest was easy for me after all the rejection that I had felt in my life. Like the number of times that I was in love and it was just not coming back the other way. The idea that whoever it was, Mike Greenberg didn't want to come on my radio show. Like, all good, man, cannot compare.
Did you ever have those Valentine's Day things in high school where like you would fill out a form and then you would get a lot electronically matched up with like 10 girls?
100%. Yes, 100%.
And I had a crush on a girl and I was trying to cheat off of her paperwork and I got matched up with
Dave,
the ultimate worst of worst, man. But like, I'm the type of guy, like if I were single and dating today, I'd hand my phone over to somebody and say, hey, don't be an ass, but swipe as many people as you want. I don't care. Like I'm interested in meeting people and talking to people, but like I'm not interested. I've found the one, so I'm good. But but no, I just think it's she's an angel. She said yes. Yeah, right. I said, do you want to see me naked? She said maybe.
Legitimately.
And eventually I wore her down.
Somebody was talking about that. I don't remember where I was recently. Somebody said, I had a type. I'm like, I had a type too. Anyone who was interested. That was my type. Like, you're not revolted by me? Oh, I'm in love. You could be any type at all.
Yeah, I've definitely tracked through and left some fallen soldiers somewhere, man. But, like I've had some interesting and the guys make fun of me on the morning show, too, because I said, like, I only need to have one thing that I'm attracted to you by, and it doesn't have to be something physical. Like, I've been attracted to. I went out with girls that I was just totally attracted to the way that they think and the way that they act.
Yeah, or how cool they were. Like that was definitely a thing for me. Like if you were cool, I could see past almost anything else, right? Like now I thought so, and then I tried to date one specific young lady, and I just realized, nope, I take it back. I still have to be physically attracted to you. This is not going to work. I'm sorry, I tried.
And I think a lot of that goes on too, and that's fair. Like you have to have some sort of attraction to them. I'm just saying with me, it doesn't ultimately have to be physical. It's not like you could take the worst looking person in the world and put them in the room with me, and they've got a great personality, and I'm just gonna,
throw yourself at
all of a sudden me and Hatchet Face are married for 20 years now or something.
God. So I went out. I have a buddy, my friend Zach, whose birthday it was yesterday, is in that band All Time Low, right? And he's been a regular with us over the years, and he is extraordinarily good looking. I thank God that we were not friends at a time when I was single, because there never would have been one coming my way. Never would have happened in my life. But we were out one night, and I think we went out on like a Tuesday night, and he was like, let's go out in Towson, and there was just nobody out. And so all of a sudden he pulls out his phone, and I don't know what year this would have been, but it was the first time I ever saw Bumble. Like I was not aware of what Bumble was. And I looked at it, and and of course it was easier for him because he's extraordinarily good looking. But like I just looked at it and I thought to myself, like, these sons of bitches. It feels like watching guys use steroids, like I understand why they want to keep Barry Bonds out of the Hall of Fame now. Like this is the easiest thing in the world. I had to work for it. I had to put out the effort. I had to get you're just out here using steroids and racking up numbers. Son of a bitch.
It's crazy, man. I think Bumble kind of does it the right way. That's the one where the girls have to pick the guys, right?
Yes, that's the one. Correct.
And I'm not being naive. Like, I've never been on a dating app. It was so funny, and I may have told this story, so forgive me if I have, but, like, I got a text from my ex-wife who was on a dating app after we split, and she goes, are you having problems in the marriage? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, why are you on this dating app? And it was, like, right around my age. They took a picture of me in an orange polo.
No.
And I'm looking at him like, hey, pal, you know you can pick anyone.
Yeah, better. You can do better than this. Like, I promise you.
I'm not trying to beat myself up,
right.
but I'm not picking me if I pick first.
You can do better.
Or if I pick 100.
Right.
So it doesn't matter.
No, I don't get that. I don't get that at all. No offense. You know how I feel about you, and I'm very sexually attracted to you.
Yeah.
But I don't get that either.
Oh man. This is definitely going to work out then.
So
but that's the funny thing about all this stuff though. Like, in all honesty, when you look at dating and life and all the things that go on, and I look back at my history of it, because I really didn't I got married early, and then when I got divorced, I hit the bar scene when I was about 24, 25, I think, ish.
Okay.
And that's when I really got to learn about the bar scene. But going back to what you were talking about with alcohol companies, I've talked to a few of those guys. They're trying to come up with their own strains of THC drinks.
Oh, sure.
So that's the new thing that, like, Coors and Bud and all those, they're all like talking about and trying to manufacture because, like, frankly speaking, I just think it's a better way to go.
Okay, let me ask the resident 23-year-old in the room. Griffin, when was the last time you and your friends just like went to a bar for the purpose of drinking for multiple hours? Like, not to go in and have like an appetizer and leave, like went out saying, this is what I'm doing with my night, is I am going to this bar and I will be there for an extended period of time.
Probably like Thanksgiving, I guess.
Okay, when everybody goes out.
The night before Thanksgiving, but that's kind of a night though, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, that's the list.
I mean, and then baseball season starting again. We usually go out after baseball games. So that.
Okay, well, that's at least something. Like,
yes.
there's a little bit there.
Yes.
Man.
Hold on, is Griffin playing baseball, or is he
so I play
going out after Oriole games?
No.
I play baseball.
No, he plays at a team. Yeah.
Semi-pro.
Yeah, he still thinks there's a chance.
Exactly.
He's not giving up hope. By the way,
White Sox might need me.
Yeah, they might actually. So, Jeremy, my son's baseball league does not use major league team names. They use minor league team names because there was so much competition over who got to be the Orioles, who got to be the. So they just finally decided we're not doing it anymore.
Just get rid of no one's the Orioles.
So no, they just decided they were going to go with minor league teams, because then it was like people were mad about being the Yankees or people were mad about being. So they just said the hell with that. And so like one of my sons is on the yard.
I was getting ready to yell "grow up," but you were talking about kids. So
yeah, exactly. Right, correct. They're children. By the way, exactly right. You know the actual problem is the parents. But I remember.
My son, I don't want him to play for the Yankees.
Right.
I didn't like that team. Right. He's not actually playing for the Yankees.
Yes, he's playing for the Joppatown Yankees. They're like, no. So it's funny because when I was growing up, I remember where I was playing, they didn't have team names. It was just like the red team, the blue team over at, I don't remember what they called it at Chapel Hill Elementary School, but there was a name for that rec league. And then I had friends that were playing on rec leagues that had team names. And so, like, I remember my buddy John was, like, on the Tigers, and he had a Tigers hat. And I 1,000% was convinced that he had a leg up on me because he was being scouted by the Tigers. Like, I genuinely believed at 9 years old that, like, they were sending the scouts down to see him. Like, well,
And
man.
you're like, I'm sitting here playing for the Towson Rubber Ducks. This is BS.
You're going to be and you're going to be playing with Cecil Fielder in a couple of weeks. This isn't fair. I remember, like, making plans. Like, dude, when you get called up to the Tigers.
Don't forget.
By the way, Glenn, it only gets worse as they get older. And I say, like, the parents, when you see parents that act foolish at, like, kids' games and things and the complaints, you'll notice the real, and I know this has become a thing, Karens, whether it's for the male or the females, like, just losing their mind over the smallest things. People complain about the team that their son ends up on and that people are fixing the league. And it's so strange when it's youth sports and they're just supposed to be out there having fun and learning how to play the game.
Yeah, I don't want to think of it. I'm having, dude, I don't know if I talked to you about it at all last week, but I'm having so much joy right now. This is my first year that my sons are playing baseball. And, like, they played lacrosse, but they just didn't take to it the same way. Like, they're all in. And my 9-year-old is, like, it's romantic. He got to pitch in his first game last week. He was the first pitcher of the season for his team, and he struck out the side. And, like, the smile that he had on his face as
That's awesome.
And, like, all of the kids are coming over and, like, high-fiving him and hitting on the hat. Like, I was in tears. Like, I don't like talking about it because I get emotional thinking about it. Like, just what that's doing for his confidence. And to think about it, he learned all those pitching from trying to hit you in the dunk tank all those years ago. Like, that's how he learned everything about being a pitcher.
I gotta get this a-hole in the water.
100%. All right, let me do.
You know what's funny though? I remember all those moments that you're talking about. Like, I remember watching Peyton hit a game-winning shot multiple times. You know, my son Dalton, when he got his first hit in baseball and the game that he scored 6 goals in soccer.
Yeah.
The one that really stands out to me is when he was a freshman and we were playing in the AAU league and he was going up against Dunbar starting point guard and he made this move on this kid and it was beautiful. And it's like, it's just one little thing that you take away from him that you see and you just, you love that stuff.
I went out, so Tyus was in town last week, and I went out after his game was Monday night, and I went out with Rita and Tyus afterwards, and I swear to God, I'm sobbing at the table trying to tell them about it. Like, I'm losing it. I'm like, I got to get a hold of myself,
man. Those are the ones you hang on to when things are bad, those are the moments you try to think about, All
right. Let's do a couple quick things sports-wise for this week. Then
Okay.
One, when do we start talking about Jackson Holliday? Because I do not think it is today. And when I bring this topic up, and I brought it up yesterday, everybody immediately gets defensive and angry. I'm not saying that Jackson Holliday should be sent down today. But at some point, we do have to talk about it. And at some point, I feel like the games have to matter. And I know that the Orioles, it's easy to say, well, they haven't lost. He hasn't cost them. He hasn't lost them any games. Fine. I understand that. But I would rather not wait until they've lost 5 out of 6 to have this conversation. Like, when is it appropriate to talk about it? What is, like, the line of demarcation? Because, and again, with all due respect, everybody keeps comparing it to Gunnar Henderson. Like, our buddy Ryan Ripken tweeted about it last night. Well, Gunnar Henderson was 17 for his first 100, right, but his on-base percentage in the same time was .341 at that point.
Yeah, he was walking a ton.
Correct.
Yeah, he had a great eye. That's why I compared him to Juan Soto. I'm like, excuse me, look at and I think they are the same player. They just look differently and play different positions.
Right.
But when you watch them at the plate, they're the same guy. I mean, it's just a thing of beauty to watch them play. But I think if they start losing, that's when you really have to think about it. And I didn't realize it until Ken McCusick said it with me yesterday. Austin Hayes still has an option, which is another weird thing. Because Rob and I were talking about it this morning, and I said, I can't send that guy down. He was the All-Star last year. I can't, I'd fake an injury for him before I sent him down or anything. But it's just, I don't know. Like, the hard part with Jackson Holliday is, like, in my mind, I go, okay, like, I understand with young pitchers or guys that aren't as highly touted as he is and that hasn't raked through every single level. Like, once it clicks, I think we're talking about games where he's 3 of 3, 2 for 3, 3 for 4. Like, we're going to see a bunch of those games with multiple, extra base hits. I don't mind waiting for it. So if he has to be sent down, because there is that thought process, we're playing for now. Like, he's a part of the future and he's a part of now, but like at the same extent, we can't lose games now because of it. And so in the Angels series, they'll see a lefty tonight and a lefty on Wednesday. So I'm assuming he gets the day off, both of those days. So one game or maybe pinch hitting later in the game when they're playing the Angels.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that entirely.
I don't know if I answered your question.
You didn't
really.
at all. You started talking about Austin Hayes, yeah.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying, like, I think we get to the point where, like, if they're losing games, they have to look at it if they go on one of those streaks, because not a lot of people expect anything out of their 9-hole hitter, but this is the top prospect in baseball, and the numbers are really ugly right now.
By the way, it was also very uncomfortable for me when you asked me if you could put it in the 9-hole. I was said, well, what in the world? I mean, that's highly inappropriate.
I usually go for the 2-hole, but you know.
All right, and then there's absolutely no juice to the draft this week here in Baltimore, like none. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to talk about it. Everybody's still experiencing the hangover of the AFC Championship game, combined with it's the 30th pick, and they're probably going to take an offensive lineman or trade out of the pick. What do you think they'll do? What should they do during the course of the first couple of rounds?
So I'm excited for the draft, and like the big thing for me is I want to see where Rome and more importantly Marvin Harrison Jr. goes. So like I'm really intrigued by the top portion of it, and as many quarterbacks that go off the board that helps the Ravens. I think the easy answer to this is the same answer that everybody's been given. It's an offensive lineman, whether it's the kid from Oklahoma, Alabama. I mean, we can look at it. There's a group of players right there that are kind of fitting in to where the Ravens would be drafting. I would not be surprised if they traded back. They only have, 2 picks on day 2.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden that lets them get another pick in there, plus the pick they trade back for, maybe another pick on day 3. I think there's a good chance they end up trading back. But if they stay there, I'll say offensive lineman because it's very cliche, but it's what they need. And we do this every year, even though they draft best player available. Yeah,
that's the way it goes. I am like, the funny thing, Jeremy, is I am not panicked about the Ravens offensive line the way that some people look. I don't love the idea of like all of Fa'alele, Voorhees, and Cleveland having to play, but at some point you draft these guys, they got to play, right? Like you do have to trust your drafting at the same time, and they drafted all of these guys too. I don't know, man. Like I'm not saying that it shouldn't be their priority. I guess I do think it should be their priority, but I still wander back to like Jadeveon Clowney gone. I love Kyle Van Noy. I think he had a great year. I am still more nervous about that than I think a lot of people are. I have more apprehension. I hope David Ojabo turns into the player they thought he was going to be. I hope that there's
but I don't even think he knows what he's going to be. Like, is he a linebacker to just go out there and play in the interior? Is he a pass rusher?
I think it's a conversation.
Is he just not good at any of those things?
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know. It is weird to me, though. One last thing with the draft and how this whole thing works. We look at all these mocks and the lead up and all the crap that people talk about. And then sometimes it just matters where you go. I mean, I've seen players that look terrible in one place and then all of a sudden they go somewhere else. It's like, man, he was really good. Or the environment. Like, there's nothing wrong with slipping in the draft if you end up going to one of these premier quarterbacks. Like, who wouldn't be happy? Which wide receiver wouldn't want to play with Josh Allen? That's not named Stephon Diggs.
Right.
You know?
All right, pal, what's going on with you this week?
I'll be at the Towson Green Turtle on Thursday night. Nelson Aguilar's coming out. He's signing autographs.
Cool.
$45 for autographs, and we're hanging out upstairs, and we're going to gamble. We'll probably gamble in the draft, too. So if anybody wants to have some fun, come on out to the NFL draft at the Towson Green Turtle. And you can bet there, and we'll have some fun.
Excellent. And, of course, the Big Bag Morning Show, 105.7 The Fan.
Oh, yeah, I do that, too.
Yeah, I've heard.
Who cares about that?
I've heard. Jay Conn. By the way, I didn't even notice how bright the lights were when I was in yesterday. Rob was complaining about the lights. Either they weren't that bright,
Drew coming after
or it's because Drew's 1,000 years old, and in order to be able to read the notes in front of him, he has to have the lights on that bright. I'm not sure what it is, but I didn't notice it at all when I was there. At JCon Sports on Twitter, and sign up for his Telegram and the whole thing. Love you, buddy. We'll talk next Monday.
Shoot me a message. Yeah, Telegram's free, so if you want in, just shoot me a message.
Thanks, pal. See ya.
Cool, man. I'll see you.
Jeremy Conn with us as he is every Monday here on GCR. When we come back in, a couple of things I didn't touch on. The other half, the first ever Division I college basketball games are set for this season at the newly renovated CFG Bank Arena. So we'll talk about it. A little bit odd, but we'll talk about that, and then we'll get a tidbit and two-bit to get out of here. It's a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Craving that classic New York deli experience? Look no further than the new Atman's Deli in Baltimore's Harbor Point. Corned beef piled high, hand-rolled bagels, and something different. A bar! Atman's has food and drink specials every day. Now open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Dine in, grab takeout, or hang out at the bar for the next O's game. Atman's Deli, an authentic taste of Baltimore tradition since 1915. Find us at Harbor Point or visit atmansdeli.com.
What company makes your home more energy efficient, purifies your air, kills all viruses, and qualifies you for $6,000 in rebates? A.J. Michaels Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis at ajmichaels.com.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Discover one of Baltimore's hidden gems at Guilford Hall Brewery. Enjoy dinner in our spacious brew pub, sip a signature cocktail in our outdoor, dog-friendly beer garden, or take a tour of our brewery. Discover your new favorite local craft beer. From crisp lagers to hoppy ales, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Pair your brew with delicious appetizers and entrees. There are options for the whole family, but you have to try our fan-favorite giant pretzel. Guilford Hall Brewery, where every sip is a celebration. Visit us online at guilfordhall.com.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Grayson Rodriguez, talking to people who have been part of his path as the Orioles hope he'll become their next homegrown ace. Also inside, we remember legendary Maryland basketball coach Lefty Drizel with stories from legends like Roy Williams and Bobby Cremins about what it was like to go up against the old left-hander. Press Box is available at over 500 locations around Baltimore, including 60 Royal Farm stores. You can also find the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
The Ed Block Courage Award Foundation has been working in partnership with the NFL for 46 years to support abused, neglected, and at-risk youth across the country, partnering each team with a children's facility or program that supports the well-being of those in need. Annually, one player from each team is selected by their peers to receive the Courage Award for their inspiration on and off the field. Learn more about how the Ed Block Courage Award Foundation makes a difference, and be sure to check out their latest podcast and web series episodes at edblock.org.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, a couple of things here as we wind down for a Monday edition of the program. So early today, John Rothstein, your boy, reported that, so we knew one of these games that had already been announced, but there will be a doubleheader at CFG Bank Arena in November. The game that had already been announced was Virginia Tech Penn State. The other game is Villanova, Virginia. So it's like a weird Virginia versus Pennsylvania battle that's happening in Baltimore.
Are we losing Maryland? Does like the winner get?
I'm not sure what to make of this. And so what I said on Twitter was twofold. One, I'm in favor of big events in Baltimore, right? Like that's the way that I feel. And given the proximity of the four fan bases, presumably that's a lot of dollars that will be spent by people traveling into Baltimore, hotel rooms, restaurants, the whole thing. So I'm in favor of the event because it's good for the city. The flip side argument is, but why isn't Maryland involved? And That's the part I got to figure out, because I guess I could do the math. Are these all Nike schools? Are all 4 of these schools? I don't know off the top of my head. I don't care. I don't care about this topic the way that some people care about it. It might very well be that this is a Nike event, but then it seems even weirder, right? Like, how in the world is Nike like descending upon Baltimore? And Villanova's had a presence in Baltimore for a long time. Jay Wright was a regular figure and was very plugged in with the Ripken Foundation and the Kelly family and some of the big people in the private school world here. And I'm assuming that he kind of passed some of that off to Kyle Neptune. It's a good thing. Are they all? Did you do the research?
I'm trying. Is there a quicker way to find?
I feel like you could just Penn State, a Nike school. Penn State, Nike. Are they Nike?
Penn State
Look at their football.
seems as Under Armour.
Just pull up.
Yeah. I guess
pull up their basketball uniforms, and you can probably get this answer. I would guess.
Virginia's Nike.
Virginia's Nike. There you go. Penn State is
You take the PA schools.
Nike. I see Nike.
Tech is Nike.
Okay, and Villanova is Nike. There you go. So they're all Nike schools.
Conspiracy.
So maybe it's a Nike event, or maybe whoever organized it said, well, we have to have nothing but Nike schools involved with this. I don't know. I would think that Maryland would want to step up and say, well, if somebody else is going to be coming into market in Baltimore, we probably need to make sure we go out of our way to figure out a way that we can take advantage of marketing in Baltimore too. And it's always been an issue, because Gary Williams would tell you he wanted to play games in Baltimore, and years upon years ago they did. There's a famous story of Juan Dixon wearing number 5 during a game against Iowa in Baltimore. But then at some point he said, I can't play games there anymore. They don't have a venue. We can't play games at the dilapidated Baltimore arena. And it was hard to argue that point. Yet they still came back years later and played a couple of games. They weren't particularly sexy matchups, but they had games there against Princeton one year and Charlotte another year and, Loyola Chicago. They played a game against Loyola Chicago in Baltimore years later. So it's not like they've never done it. They also, in fairness, got away from one of the frustrations was that for a long time they were always playing at least one game a year in D.C. Sometimes they were playing 2 because they were playing in John Feinstein's event. And I can't even think of the BB&T Classic. And for years that was a double header, or that was like a 4-team event. You would play 2 games in that event, and then they moved it back to being a one-day thing. But then it got really frustrating for people that they were committed to playing games in D.C. but weren't committed to playing games in Baltimore. And like Gary's argument was, we don't have anywhere to play the games. And I'm sure even as the Mark Turgeon teams came here to play games, it was a similar feeling of like, but the venue's not suitable enough for us to actually commit to playing games here. Well, the venue's suitable now. So there's no way around it. You can't let all these other schools in your region come here and tell all of these kids in Baltimore, you're going to have the opportunity to play games at home with us. Particularly meaningful, say, for like Virginia and Virginia Tech, because they don't even play at Maryland any longer. They want to keep rooting. It's a little bit different for Penn State. What's his face? Oh God,
Mike Rhodes?
No, the kid from Baltimore that was playing at Penn State
Ace,
this year.
Ace Baldwin.
Ace Baldwin. Thank you. I always get him and Ace Valentine mixed up. But Ace Baldwin, they were able to say, hey, at least for sure you'll be playing some games at Maryland over the years. But for all of these programs that want to recruit Baltimore, of course, Villanova had Phil Booth and Daniel Chefu and some other Baltimore natives over the years. For all these programs that want to recruit Baltimore, they want to be able to say, you can play here. So Maryland should be prioritizing trying to do the same thing. I like this. It's good for the city. It's good for the arena. It's good for downtown. I hope there are more events like this. I've always wanted there to be. I get jealous. The years where there's like a Maryland Navy football game in Baltimore to kick off the season, like college football feels like there's life here. Like it matters. People are into it. And then the years where there isn't, you're like, right, it just doesn't feel like there's a lot of life for college football. I want all of these types of events. I want more Army-Navy games. I want all of it. These events are good. The infrastructure is here. This isn't like when you complain about, a city hosting the Olympics, and you're like, we got to build all these stadiums. Like, no, they don't have to build jack. It's here. It's good. We want these types of events to be in our city. We want this building to host more. But where were I don't even know where the Olympic wrestling trials were this weekend. A couple of Maryland natives that qualified for the Olympics. Helen Maroulis, again, she's unbelievable. She's amazing. I want those types of events here. This is a good thing, but I also think that Maryland should be playing games in Baltimore. And if we're at the place now where other schools are ready to do it, Maryland shouldn't be falling behind. That doesn't seem like that's a good thing for anyone.
They're at Penn State, by the way.
I guess that makes sense. Penn State's like the wrestling capital.
Iowa's
still probably the wrestling capital of the world, and then Minnesota maybe is not that far off. But Penn State's right in the conversation. Who's the kid from Hagerstown that went to Penn State? Aaron Brooks,
yeah, Aaron
right?
Brooks.
Qualified for the Olympics. Beat David Taylor, which was a big story over the weekend. I want all that. I want the Olympic wrestling trials. I want Once upon a time, we hosted the Olympic gymnastics trials in Baltimore. It's hard to remember that. I remember if it was 92 or 96. I want those types of events in Baltimore. So I do want this, but I think Maryland should be trying to play a game too. Maybe they do a doubleheader. The Maryland men and women both play games. It would have been cool. I was really I had that thought of, boy, it would have been cool to have had the LSU women play at the arena last year. And I know they ultimately came and played at Coppins, so they got a game here. But boy, that would have been really fun. And maybe there's some bad blood with Angel Reese leaving Maryland, so it wouldn't have happened that way. But God, that would have been a cool night at the arena. I know it was tough for some people because Coppin, they sold out. They filled that gym. It would have been cool to have that at the arena. All right, and then there's some story going around today that Paul Lucas, who's Mr. Uniwatch on Twitter, that there will be an alternate helmet for the Ravens this season that will feature the bird logo. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't care that much about these things, but I think the helmet's fine. I don't. Man, this is for somebody else. Maybe that's just what I should say here. This is a topic for somebody else. I don't care enough about this to get worked up about it. As long as I just get rid of the mustard pants and never wear them again, I'm fine. I really am. And I don't like it when the purple looks blue on television. Whatever has led to that, where it looks like they're wearing blue uniforms on television when they wear the certain purple, they got to fix that. They have, but otherwise, I don't really care all that much about it.
Like the camera's fault.
Maybe it's the camera's fault.
There's no mock-up available yet. They're just saying they're going to use the
that other the bird logo.
The front-facing bird.
Yes, the front-facing bird is the word about that.
On a black helmet?
I'm sure it'll be fine. I think
I'll take it.
I don't care enough about this, but I also don't think the helmets are a problem. I have no issue with the helmets. So
now, if it turns into the City Connect and they they lose the first game, I never want to see it again.
1,000%. I think all Friday nights are now just cursed. Maybe we just stop watching the games on Friday
nights. It sucks
nights.
because those are I can typically go to Friday night.
Yeah, it's it's normally a great night, but gotta stop. Oh God, they'll be wearing them. Imagine if they lose to the Athletics wearing the City Connects. That's it, right? It has to be over, doesn't it? If they lose to the effing Oakland Athletics, who would be pitching? It would be who went before Irvin? That was Burns. Oh my God.
Yeah, so
if they were to lose to the Athletics with Corbin Burns on the mound on Friday night,
they're gonna lose 2-1, and
it's got to be over, correct? That's got to be the last date. I think they should be over.
They had I wonder what the record was on Friday last year, because the one win I know they had, Santander had that walk-off against the Yankees.
Okay.
And that's the only win I can remember in the
go back and do some. This will be tidbit tomorrow.
Okay.
Tidbit tomorrow. Do some research. When did they introduce the City Connect? What was the record on Friday before the City Connect?
Yeah.
What was the record on Friday after the City Connect? Home games versus road games. I want all of the details from you for tidbit tomorrow. All right? You got some work to do on this. Tidbit today is brought to you by Atman's Deli in Harbor Point. Now open. It's everything you loved about the original Atman's, which, of course, still exists. everything you love about the original Atman's, but also now with a sports bar too. The delicious deli sandwiches, including the corned beef that's piled high. They also have breakfast, the great hand-rolled bagels, specials every day. Go to atmansdeli.com to find out more. But if you have not checked it out yet, as you're headed down to the games this weekend, stop in at Atman's Deli in Harbor Point. What you got?
Coors Field opened in 1995 in Denver. And then yesterday, through the first 9 innings between it was the Mariners and the Rockies, they were scoreless through the first 9 innings, which is only the 3rd time that has ever happened.
Kind of surprised it's ever happened, to be honest with you.
Yeah, in Coors Field history. The first time was 2008 when the Dodgers and the Rockies were playing, and then also in 2022 the Braves and the Rockies went 9 innings, and then finally I forget who won. I think the Rockies actually won the game 1 yesterday.
Okay.
It almost cost me my fantasy matchup. Yeah,
no.
Because George Kirby threw a gem, but the Mariners didn't score any
deal
runs.
with the Mariners exactly? What's going on there? And who's available? Which one of their pitchers is available?
Maybe all of them if they keep
right.
If they keep losing to the Rockies.
I don't know what's going on with them. The AL West in general is
very down.
Yeah.
Rangers seem to be okay.
Yeah, but only okay. You know what I mean? Like, they're not running away. Maybe I don't know what they did this weekend. So I think when I looked at it last week.
The A's have 8 wins. The Astros have 7.
It was absolutely last week when I looked at this. Everybody in the AL East was over 500, and I want to say that everybody in the AL West was 100.
Very possible.
Like, we're used to saying that about the Central.
12 and 11 right now.
What's that?
The Rangers are 12 and 11 right now. Mariners are 11 and 11.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Like, Alex Bregman is.
Yeah, and the
has
Rays
like 1 RBI on the year or something.
The Rays are in last place in the East and are 12 and 11. So last place in the AL East
will be leading the
correct.
AL West. The other one I wanted to do, I guess, so we've already gone pretty long. We'll just do this one. I'll see if you can name. So Jackson Churio has has at least 4 home runs and now 4 stolen bases in his first 17 career games at age 20 or younger.
God's sakes, these are not good.
It's only the 2nd time this has ever happened, and the first time it happened was within the past decade. Last player to have 4 homers, 4 stolen bases in their first couple weeks in the bigs at 20 years old.
I don't remember this happening in the last decade.
It was 2015.
2015.
He was a rookie shortstop.
2015. That's before Acuna.
Yes, before Acuna, who plays outfield.
Yeah, didn't he come up? I thought he came up as a
infielder.
Maybe I'm making that up, but I thought he came up for some reason as a. All right, 2015.
Mm-hmm. He was the rookie of the year that year. The AL rookie of the year.
2015 AL rookie of the year. God damn it. All right. Hang on a second. Seager?
Not Seager. Wasn't Corey Seager always a Dodger, I think?
Oh, I'm thinking of
Kyle Seager.
My God. Man, I got to get
It was an AL West team.
I got to get it was an AL West team.
Yeah.
AL West shortstop 2015. Oh, Correa.
Carlos Correa.
I didn't realize he was that young when he came up.
Yeah. Carlos Correa and Jackson Churio, the end of this list. 4
That's
homers, 4 stolen bases.
How about that?
In their first 17 games.
All right.
Yeah. Is that it, or do you, I mean?
If it's a quick one, if it's like name 9 guys that.
It's not overly quick. All right, I missed it last week. So Gunnar on Wednesday, Gunnar hit a leadoff home run.
Yes.
They ended the game with a walk-off, Cedric Mullins walk-off, again, #1 player of the week.
Okay.
Marked the 4th time in Orioles history that the Orioles hit both a leadoff and a walk-off homer in the same game.
What were the years?
2000, 98, and 82.
All right. I'm going to guess that Brady Anderson was involved.
He was involved twice.
In 2000 and 1998.
Correct.
So now it's trying to figure out who the other one was, and that's not quite as easy. Raffy. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 98.
All right.
98. Well, Brady Anderson led off, and then Raffy walk-off homer against Toronto on June 19th, 1998. Were you there?
I don't know.
Then where were you?
I have no idea. Why am I getting grilled?
And you were definitely at this was May 23rd, 2000. You had to be at
obviously
this one.
I was there because it was
Against the
Cal Ripken. Oh,
it was Cal Ripken. Yeah, you
was
were
it
there.
really?
Against who? You remember?
The Brewers.
No, not the
All right, who
Brewers.
was
It was the Mariners.
The Mariners.
And then you
All
were.
right.
I guess you weren't at the one in 1982.
I was not born in 1982.
August
so
8th, 1982. A leadoff homer from.
the leadoff homer was hit by Al Bunbury.
It was.
Then the finishing home run was hit by Eddie Murray.
It was not Eddie Murray. I'm trying. I don't have any hints
About-
for this guy because I don't really know.
About Rich
anything about him.
Dower.
Not Rich Dower.
How about Kenny Singleton?
Not Kenny Singleton. He was an Oriole from 76 to 82.
Disco Dan Ford. Oh, he was
Started as
80
an Oriole.
82,
Started
so he
his
was not
career-
on the World Series team.
No, he was an Expo for 83, but he didn't play much that year.
Expo in 83.
He started his career with the Orioles 69 to 73.
69 to 73.
Took 3 years off to go play in Cincinnati and Atlanta, and then came back to Baltimore for 8 seasons.
Came back to Baltimore for 8 seasons. Is that Terry Crowley?
It was.
Okay.
Terry Crowley.
I think I've actually put Terry Crowley on the World Series team in my mind over the years. I think I've just assumed that he was on the 83 Orioles.
Yeah, he missed because so 82, and then he came back to coach for the Orioles.
Yeah,
in
hitting
85.
coach, 100%.
So,
Yep.
so he just missed the.
All right.
the
Very
glory
good.
of the year.
Very good. Let's get it tubular. Tubular is
I think he
brought
was
to
on
you.
the 70 team.
So he did win a
Yeah,
World
yeah.
Series, just not on the 83 World Series team. Tubular is brought to you by County Sports Zone and your local Toyota dealers. Of course, all the best high school sports coverage, boys and girls lacrosse, baseball, softball, play pick'em. Find the updated rankings, score schedules, everything you need to know at countysports.zone. Proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Here's what's coming up totally tubular-wise this evening. Albert Suarez does make start number 2. The ace is on the mound as the Orioles open up a series against the Angels. Reed Detmers, who's been really good this season for Los Angeles. That's at 9:38 on MASN and MLB Network and the rest of the country. MLB Network has Athletics Yankees at 1 o'clock. It's also on MLB.TV. It's their free game of the day. Mets Giants locally at 10:30. Fox Sports 1, White Sox Twins at 7:30. ESPN Plus Mets Giants at 9:45. Boy, most of the basketball games stunk this weekend. What a dog first weekend of playoff action, other than last night, and even that wasn't like thrilling. It was more, can the Thunder actually make a basket at the end of the game? It was a really weird. That was the only.
My Pacers not looking good.
Oh, your Pacers?
Yeah.
They're yours. You're Jalen Smith
So I
guy.
put money on them. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah, not great.
No.
Not great. Yeah, most of the games were dreadful this weekend, and even the one that was good was like painful. It's just what it is. Tonight, Game 2 between the Magic and Cavaliers, 7 o'clock on NBA TV. TNT and True TV for Game 2 of the Sixers and Knicks, 7:30. Lakers and Nuggets at 10. I guess the Sixers-Knicks game was good.
There's only 3 games tonight.
Yeah, only 3 games
Okay.
tonight.
Mm.
Joel Embiid got hurt, and so that was a big bummer about the first game. But I think he's good, right? He's supposed to be.
Let's find out.
Whatever. All right, you look that up while I tell you about the hockey tonight. ESPN Game 2, Maple Leafs Bruins at 7 o'clock, and Game 1 for the Golden Knights and Stars at 9:30. ESPN 2. Game 2 for the Islanders and Hurricanes at 7:30. Game 1 for the Kings and Oilers at 10. The USA Network for WWE Monday Night Raw at 8.
Questionable.
Questionable.
So he'll probably push to go.
You would imagine. Non-sports.
No, not a whole
Okay.
lot. Let's see. Kim Kardashian will be on Jimmy Kimmel tonight, if anyone's into that kind of thing. Otherwise, there's a documentary on Hulu called Hip Hop in the White House, and there's rappers just kind of talking about between music and politics and how they were related.
Sure.
Like Jeezy and Common apparently have big roles in this documentary.
Okay.
So yeah, that is it.
All right, very good.
Slow night.
Thanks to Steve Stofberg for coming in and hanging out with us today. That was a lot of fun. Thanks also to Bobby Valentine and Jeremy Conn. We'll get it up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh my God, it's so good.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Tomorrow on the program, our regular Tuesday stuff, Patrick Stevens will join us. We'll talk about Maryland Hopkins and the fallout from the weekend in lacrosse. Of course, County Sports Zone Radio. Robinson Chirinos is going to join us. We've been wanting to do this for a couple of reasons. One, Robbie worked as an instructor at Orioles Spring Training, but also, you might remember, in the feature that we did with Brandon Hyde when he was named Mo Gabba Sports Person of the Year, I asked him bluntly, who's the one player that's most responsible for how the culture changed in Baltimore? And without hesitation and without qualifying it or naming 6 other guys, and we've had a lot of great players. Brandon Hyde immediately said Robinson Chirinos. I was like, wow. So I want to talk to him about the impact that he's had on how the Orioles have turned things around. Anything else?
Stuff and things.
Thanks, everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Live Casino and Hotel, Atman's Deli, A.J. Michaels, Guilford Hall Brewery, Royal Farms, the Ed Block Courage Awards, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, Costa Sin, MSAA, Hartford Community College, Glory Days Grill, the Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, and buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Monday night. Go Birds. Duke sucks.